This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. We're broadcasting on Talk Radio as well. It's time to say good morning to Mr. Mike Porky Parry. It's not a great morning if you're living in London, but it is the kind of thing that we've been expecting, Mr. Parry, for a while, I dare say.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's a terrible thing to say, oh, it's the sort of thing we were expecting, because then you have to raise the question, well, if we were expecting it, why didn't we prepare against it? And actually,
well, we kind of did, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, yeah. I was going to say, actually, I think we did, and I think that we minimalised what could have been a more terrible instance. I mean, I'm not in any way treating this dismissively. 5 people dead, including the terrorist himself and a policeman from the diplomatic corps who protect Parliament. 3 pedestrians dead. But catastrophic injuries apply to some of those still in hospital. 6 different hospitals in London taking up to 35 people who have injuries to varying degrees from the carnage this man created by driving, it looked like a 4x4, didn't it? On the pavement.
It was a Hyundai, I believe.
That's right, on the pavement across Westminster Bridge. Hindsight's a great thing. I would say to myself, maybe if there had been little sort of concrete poles or posts, every 6 yards on the edge of the pavement, then he couldn't have got onto the pavement, he couldn't have done what he did. But
and there are parts of London where those things exist, right?
Yes, there are, yeah. Or railings, solid railings along the edge of the pavement, separating the pavement from the road. But the reason you can't do that is because of pedestrian access to a large area of Westminster Bridge where you have to allow people to cross, and pedestrian lanes require exit and
the bottom line is
access.
As you know, I mean, there's only so much you can do. And if somebody is determined to create a terrorist incident, what I'd like to do on this show is to say, let's stop calling these complete and utter morons terrorists. This guy is not a terrorist.
He's
really.
a killer.
He's a killer. He is a scumbag. He is a moron. He is all of the things that we hate in life. He, for some reason, hates the Western world, whatever reason.
No, he just thinks he does in his head. He could have been on drugs.
He could have been on drugs. He's willing to mow down innocent people to achieve some kind of end which is ludicrous. He knows when he gets out of that car, armed with 2 kitchen knives, that he's going to get blown away by the police.
Well, he probably didn't.
Right?
I mean,
he must know that.
Well, in his own head, maybe not. In his own head, maybe he thought a greater power was going to save him. This is the way some people operate in their heads.
Well, you think he's that deluded?
Well, you can be. I mean, there are plenty of examples of terrorist activities over the last decade where the perpetrators have been high on drugs, because that's what's driven them in this deluded idea. I mean, I
wouldn't discount that at all.
Going right back to 9/11. I mean, we know then that the attackers there were all told, don't worry, you're going to heaven and there's 100 virginal brides waiting for you. Yeah. And if all this is still believed by these madmen who go about trying to, destroy the Western world, then we've got a very tough target to control and fight against.
Some of the conversations we're going to have tonight will be difficult, because what I don't want to do, as you don't want to do, is minimise the effects of what has happened, because there'll be a lot of people tonight who witnessed what happened yesterday around Westminster who will be very traumatised. You see them being interviewed on television, you could hear them being interviewed on Talk Radio and on Talk Sport, and they sounded as if they'd seen things that they will never unsee, if you like. Horrible injuries have been made to people that most normal people would never wish to see.
Yes.
However, this kind of latest idea that, some lone nutter gets in either a van or a lorry, or in this case a Hyundai 4x4, and drives it at completely innocent people who happen to be walking around in a city is so pathetic that I don't think it even qualifies as an act of terror. It qualifies as an act of something, but I don't think it's terrorism. And flying a plane into a building, which involves quite a lot of work, quite a lot of sort of homework, quite a lot of planning. I can putting a bomb inside an airport. It was the anniversary of the Brussels bombing and all of that. And what they did in Paris, that is proper terrorism. This, to me, is just pathetic.
Well,
it's pathetic.
Okay, Mike, you say that, but I tell you what, it's effective. And the thing is that we know that the terrorists are constantly trying to stay ahead of the authorities and move the goalposts and ring up something that we're not prepared for. Now, the first one of these that we all remember was in Nice, July 2016, 86 people killed when the truck barged into a crowd of revellers who were watching the Bastille Day fireworks, OK? That was the first indication we had that this is a new terror weapon. It's happened since then in Berlin. It's now happened in London. This is their latest weapon. Now, you say, well, it doesn't qualify as terrorism. It does, because it's a new tactic. We don't yet know the relationship between the assassin and terrorist groups or terrorist cells.
That's true.
Or whether anybody else. We don't even know. We're not even sure there wasn't another man in the car who might have got out and fled in all the chaos. We just don't know that.
Right.
So I accept exactly what you're saying. How does this qualify as terrorism? It took about 1 minute with a guy mounting a car on the pavement, mowing people down, running into an area where police were armed and shot him dead. How does that qualify? It does, because it has caused terror and people are dead. I know it's trite to say this, but thank God the number of casualties was so minimal compared to Nice, 86, Berlin, 12, and even going back to March 2016, Brussels, 32 people were killed in the suicide bomb attacks. But it's much, much easier for these terrorists not to have to smuggle explosives into the country, not to have to smuggle guns into the country, to just say to a deluded fanatic follower, get in your car, drive to Westminster Bridge, mount the pavement and mow down as many people as you can before you get out, and then attack the enemies of the Almighty or something like that, whatever instructions he was given.
But imagine if this was more similar to what happened at the Bataclan in Paris, which was a very cleverly coordinated attack where some people went into the music venue, others were outside shooting people in another part of the city.
Some people were at the sports stadium.
Other people were at the Stade de France. That was a properly coordinated and very, very frightening thing. Because I remember you and I were doing a show in Birmingham that very night.
We were,
and we came off stage and people started saying to us, by the way, something terrible's happening in Paris. And that is the kind of thing that chills me absolutely to the bone. Because you feel completely and utterly helpless. This, to me, feels like somebody who has literally just kind of taken control of a car and decided to do something with it. It's almost like a drunk driver driving around, in a sort of a crazed way, and you have to be very, very unlucky to be affected by it. And I just think, I'm grasping at straws here, and I'm not pretending I've got any answers. All I'm saying is that, somehow we need to differentiate between what people like this have just done and the guy in Nice has done, and the guy at the German market and the Christmas market in Berlin has done, and the really serious problem of people being blown up. I think this is the latest brand of terrorism, you see. That's why I think it's so dangerous, because it's so difficult to anticipate. It's, not only difficult to anticipate, but impossible to stop, really.
Impossible to stop. This is a tribute to our security services. Only in the last week or so, GCHQ has been high in the headlines because, of course, it's been at the centre of another Trump story. Were we spying on Trump on behalf of Obama? Was it GCHQ in Cheltenham? But I think the reason I say this is a tribute to our security services, that the guys there, the spooks, are so clever now at detecting terrorist activity and it comes from things like whether one particular product in shops in Britain is being, like fertiliser or something, is being bought in greater quantities, some chemical, or just some odd trade pattern or something like that. They can tell. And the terrorists know that they are being electronically followed and watched all the time. And so there's less electronic stuff to leave a footprint or a fingerprint when you get in a car and you drive it randomly.
That's right. And so, I think that's what I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not doing it very cleverly, so you may have to help me out here as we go on. But it's almost like we have to take the view that, this will happen. There is nothing we can really do about it. Okay?
We do. We do now.
Now we've always, I think, but the difference between this and other kinds of terrorism, like with the IRA and with massive bombing campaigns that have taken place before, we've always believed that we can stop those from happening by being vigilant, by being very careful about, eavesdropping on the email conversations these people are having. We can't stop this, right? So we have to take the view that this is going to happen, and we have to not empower the people doing it in some way, so that when they do it, they don't feel particularly good about it. They're not doing it, they're not making themselves a name. They're not becoming martyrs.
But they don't think rationally like we do,
and simply just a bunch of complete and utter cretins. But I'm going to use these words that you're not supposed to use on the radio.
But Mike, they're madmen, and they don't think rationally in any way or form whatsoever.
I'm quite angry about it. This is my city, right?
Yeah.
And I will not be cowed by these people. I will be going out and I will walk across Westminster Bridge tomorrow.
Of course
I might walk across Waterloo Bridge as well while I'm at it. But I will not be cowed by these scumbags.
Yeah, we will all go and walk over Westminster Bridge. But, to be honest, that's again, a hindsight sort of protest. We all know that it's not going to happen again on Westminster Bridge because lightning doesn't strike twice. Although the police have said that they hope, the authorities, have said, because I've picked this up from somewhere, that this guy they hope it wasn't a practice run for other attacks like this around the country. Because I tell you what, he's done it in a place where there are more armed policemen than anywhere else in Great Britain.
Exactly.
If he did it on a street in Nottingham or... name any town, Lincoln or something, anywhere. Manchester, anywhere.
But you know what?
There would not be as many armed police around to stop him.
He could have done it in Liverpool Street, could have done it in Regent Street.
Of course he could.
And what I'm saying is that you're just going to have to put up with this because this is going to go on.
Well, as I said earlier, and it's not a very clever observation, but it's a fact of life, the stock market didn't blip 1 point. It didn't go up or down. And years ago, I was saying a couple of decades ago when the IRA exploded what they called a spectacular on the mainland, the stock market dipped terribly because everybody thought it was the end of civilization as we know it. Now, we have to accept, and we saw only last week the pictures of the anti-terror squad on an exercise on a boat on the Thames in case it was taken hostage. It is an essential and integral part of life, and a huge part of our economy now is given over to try to protect ourselves from the enemy within.
It is indeed. We are the two Mikes. This is Talk Sport. We will be talking about this for quite some considerable time. If you want to call us, you can. 08717 223344. We'll get to the football later on. This is Talk Sport.
The two Mikes. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Tomorrow morning, Parliament will meet as normal. We will come together as normal. And Londoners and others from around the world who have come here to visit this great city will get up and go about their days as normal. They will board their trains. They will leave their hotels. They will walk these streets. They will live their lives. And we will all move forward together, never giving in to terror and never allowing the voices of hate and evil to drive us apart.
Prime Minister Theresa May. I mean, there were so many things that we'll have to discuss over the course of the next couple of hours.
Yes.
Because we will not, I mean, fear not, we are not going to sit here and be maudlin about it. We're not going to sit here and say,
all.
But it's a very serious story, and we have to do it. There will be other things that we talk about as well. But I have to say, without wishing to be too, shall we say, frivolous, when I saw that silver Jag of Theresa May's being driven at high speed away from Millbank, do you know what I thought of?
Go on.
That scene from Skyfall.
Skyfall, and she's on the way to the MI6 building.
No, he's taking her up to Scotland.
No, Scotland,
I don't wish to sound trite, but that's it's exactly like that, you know.
Yeah.
And I have to say, and I'm going to read this out here from Pete, who said today's terrorist act is impossible to stop, but a great response by the police and the ambulance services. And you have to say,
I would agree.
as ever, you know, the police were on the scene. Within seconds.
Well, the police were there because it's a police base.
No,
it's
a police
station.
No, but I'm talking about the armed, the armed response units and everything else.
There are armed policemen there permanently in Parliament, obviously. And in fact, funnily enough, the minute I heard that he'd entered Parliament's inner sanctum, so to speak, I remembered the Airey Neave situation.
Yes.
Because
that was my thought as well.
Yeah, Mrs Thatcher was on the campaign trail in 1979 ahead of becoming the first woman Prime Minister. And I remember the pictures to this day. She came off the hustings and somebody went up and whispered in her ear, and Airey Neave was her closest political colleague and had been blown up in a bomb in the days when anybody could wander in off the street, wander down the underground car park ramp, and simply look around. You know, there was no security in those days.
Right, exactly. But that slightly worries me as well.
It does.
This guy was able to, because we've listened all day to various people who were there at the time when this happened.
Yes.
And you and I have walked past it many times.
Oh, yeah.
The gate which the cars go into, just next to St Stephen's Tower there, are basically, I mean, it's a sort of manual gate.
It is,
which is run by the cops who were standing there. Now, the guy who was killed, rather sadly, it turns out was not actually armed. Now, his name is PC Keith Palmer.
That's right.
He served, it turns out, in the armed forces with one of an MP who's already been making a statement about what a great guy he was.
Yes.
Now, apparently, when they opened that gate up and they asked for people to stand back and let the cars come in, or go out, you know, that's it. That's the only security there is.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no gatehouse. You know, there's no sort of what you would call roadblock that comes up.
I suppose the thought is that as they are so close to the to the vehicle, then instant justice can be meted out if anything goes wrong, But I mean, look, lessons will be learnt from today.
Well, they will be, but I mean, I find it, and I'm not being critical of the way that the thing was set up, but I find it slightly worrying that this guy could have just run in, because it wasn't about having a car.
No.
They can stop a car.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. But this guy ran inside
with two
and basically
knives.
just ran past the cops and started attacking them.
And then 4 very distinctive sounds, the sound of gunshots rang out, and he was dead. I'm glad they didn't hesitate, because in this country we tend to. I saw one very interesting eyewitness account from a colleague of ours, in fact a namesake of mine, Alan Parry, who is the...
he was one of the witnesses, wasn't he?
Well,
he was there.
I saw him on Sky, and he was literally talking of an eyewitness account, the best I've heard today. He came out of Westminster Tube Station.
Bizarrely, he said he was waiting to meet with Norman Tebbit.
Yeah.
Strangely enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was walking along, and I think Alan, who's a terrific journalist, by the way, I've worked with him for many, many years. He's a first-class football commentator and pundit, and he gave such a detailed, visual account. We often sort of mock ourselves by saying we're trained observers. He certainly was, and it was a chilling glossary of what exactly had happened, and the sheer recklessness of the evilness of the attack.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, let's take a couple of phone calls here, because there's lots of people who want to talk to
Indeed.
us. 08717 223344. We're not going to necessarily find any answers. We're not going to say that we have in any way a plan for defeating these bozos, but they are bozos, trust me. Let's talk to Habib. Habib, very good morning to you.
Yeah, morning, Mike. Nice to speak to you again, and you, Porky, as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think my condolences to the family of Keith Palmer and all the other victims.
Exactly.
Who died today, but I think I can understand your anger, Mike, of the situation. But I was hearing James Whale earlier, and I think he had an expert on, and he's saying sometimes these things can be like I know, Porky, you might have mentioned it, about a test run. And so we shouldn't dismiss anything that happens now.
Oh, we're not going to.
Yeah, and so I think today was a sort of a test run, could be like a test run, and it just showed that I think the authorities have done well today. I think
they have done well, but I mean, it's unfortunate that you can't really... Well, I guess my point is, Habib, that you can't really... If somebody wants to get in a car, and as Mike says, drive down a high street in Nottingham, in Leeds, in Newcastle, in places which are less fortified than Westminster, they can do it.
Anybody can. So we can't guard against that, can we?
There's nothing real... I mean, they can make Westminster slightly more fortified, but they can't fortify the entire nation.
Absolutely. But the thing I was surprised about today was... once he got off the bridge, I was a bit shocked that they had this sort of a situation on the Thames the other day. Yet Westminster Bridge, there's nothing at the end of Westminster Bridge, so he was able to get off Westminster Bridge and.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, in my
it's just a pavement.
My personal experience, whenever I've come from Victoria Embankment,
yes,
down towards Westminster and tried to turn right into Westminster Square,
yes,
Parliament Square, it is such a slow and torturous thing to do.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm staggered that this guy, because I haven't seen exactly what happened, but if he drove at high speed down the pavement,
that's right.
I presume he just kept going down the pavement.
Well, he did, and then he yanked the wheel, or somebody yanked the wheel, and he crashed into the railings, and he was probably 30 yards from the corner that you're talking about, and he got out and ran round the corner. There was the entrance to inside Parliament. He ran in, as you quite rightly say. Fortunately, he was shot dead very quickly before he caused any more carnage. Yeah. But the thing is, Habib, there is no answer to this, and that's what the terrorists want. They want to start changing the goalposts all the time, coming up with new tactics, coming up with new ways of killing people, and it keeps us in a permanent state of bafflement. And the whole idea of terrorism, remember, is fear. It's to spread fear in the community that it could happen again, and that's what we have to guard against. That's why life has to go on as normal.
Absolutely, yeah. And I will say as a Muslim that I think our community, we mustn't, because a lot of people want to say, the West bring it on themselves, that brigade. And I do believe our community have to come out now and make sure, because this is a death cult. ISIS is a death cult, and they need to be dealt with.
Yeah.
And sadly, Barack Obama, he wasn't up to it. And, if it's a choice between Trump or these nutters, the death cult, I call them, then I'll take Trump all day. That's what I think.
Okay.
Well,
All
absolutely
right.
right. Listen,
Thank you.
Habib, thank you very much indeed. I mean, there's a tweet here from somebody who takes the other view, which is that, of course, these attacks can be prevented, says,
how?
stop letting these people into the UK. Well, frankly, that is just completely and utterly ridiculous.
Of course, it's ridiculous.
To get Trump's travel
we don't know
ban
how
plan
we don't know how long
implement
the guy who is the killer today has been here.
First of all, we don't know whether he was born here. We don't, which he may well have been. We don't know whether he visited here from another place. We don't know whether his parents are from outside of the UK.
That's right.
For example, the guy that killed Joe Cox.
Yes.
The right-wing crazy, white supremacist guy who wanted Brexit to happen. Nobody said, well, all right, in that case, let's ban all, strange-looking white people from Yorkshire.
Yeah.
That's not the way. That's not the future.
Yeah.
The point is that my plan is to completely and utterly ridicule these people somehow.
Yes.
And make them out to be what they are, which is common petty criminals, nothing more. Now, somebody's already said to me, well, killing 4 people is hardly petty crime. But actually, it is, because they're not.
Well,
they're not murdering them. Right?
I think
they're not murdering them.
I think it's a bit dangerous to start calling it's a petty crime when 4 people are dead. But I understand exactly where you're coming from.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not diminishing the effects of the crime.
No, you're not. But you're saying 86 people died in the massacre in France when a lorry was driven along.
What I'm saying is that a guy. Well, no, but also a guy who jumps into the Bataclan and starts shooting at people at random with a machine gun. Is murdering people. A guy who is just driving a car and decides, for whatever reason, as you say, whether he's high on drugs or whether he's being
deluded,
controlled
mad,
or being deluded or whatever he is, he's driving a car. I mean, part of the reason I suppose maybe I'm reacting like this is because only a few days ago in my hometown in Sussex, somebody in a car ended up killing someone who was walking along the street with their children.
Because the car ran off the road.
Because the car ran off the road, and it was one of those terrible, awful things that happens. And, that person wasn't a terrorist, and they didn't run over loads and loads of people. But, these things can happen. And, I'm sort of grasping at straws to find a solution to this. I don't think I have one.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is that, to me, this is not a gross act of mass terrorism. I don't think we should give it that importance.
Well, I know what you're saying, and you don't bring a panic factor into society. However, I think that the real work is now being done into whether or not this guy has connections with other people, and if he does, where are they? So am I right in thinking that Westminster Bridge, even if we wanted to walk across it tomorrow as an act of solidarity, probably won't be open, will it?
Well, it might be.
Well, I can't see how it can be, because if you think that nearly 30 people were knocked down by this guy, surely there will still be forensic evidence on the pavement. There'll be forensic evidence on the road.
Very possibly.
And I would have thought that you probably can't. Now, from that forensic evidence, they will want to find out, where did this man live?
Right.
Who did he live with?
Right.
Who were his friends, his associates?
Oh, they'll certainly want to know.
Had he travelled abroad recently?
Yeah.
Now, all that can be found out from one speck of, the guy's blood or something like that. You know what I mean? So I doubt very much if the bridge will be open tomorrow.
We'll come back to that in a moment, because we're out of time. Mark says this: if one madman can shut down London, what if there were 100 of them? Well, let me tell you something, Mark. London has not been shut down.
No.
London is very much open.
No. In fact, driving in tonight, I gave a lot of extra time coming to TalkSport Towers. We are not very far. We're 2 junctions away, really, from Westminster. And I have to say, I thought there's going to be long queues of traffic and backed up and all that. It's not. It's flowing pretty well, and people are getting on with their lives because we're used to this. It has happened before, and the only way to respond is to get on with it.
Exactly right.
People travel the tube after tube, horrendous tube attacks, because we just know we have to get on with it.
Yeah, exactly right. This is Talk Sport. We are the 2 Mikes. Loads more coming up.
The 2 Mikes. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
All the weapons that have been used, it appears, are freely available in your kitchen and in your garage. So it's really difficult to identify someone that's going to do something like this. And then obviously when they get it into the head that they're going to do it, to stop them, all that you can do really is to kill them. And that's happened, unfortunately, too late to save the poor people that have been killed and injured today.
That's Chris Phillips, counter-terrorism expert, former police officer in the Metropolitan Police, of course. The Metropolitan Police, who have got plenty of experience of dealing with all of this stuff, and I think we've all agreed that they've done a pretty decent job today.
I'd say so, yeah.
Mark says this: London has faced bigger threats than deluded madmen armed with a car and a knife and overcome them.
Yeah,
but as I say,
true.
The difficulty is, And one of the arguments that's always made is that
we don't know where they're coming from.
Well, not so much that, but the argument that was made about how Britain is safer than, say, mainland Europe is that in mainland Europe it's very easy to drive a car full of Kalashnikovs all the way from Estonia to Paris. And literally take them out of the back of the car and start shooting people with them.
That's right.
Here they've got to at least cross the sea.
That's right.
And the security here is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, I was quite impressed by, and there's been 2 incidents now in 4 days. Well, when was it? Was it Sunday when we came in and somebody got stabbed in the road leading here?
It was just down by the cut there.
Yeah, and within minutes, because we were there within minutes, there were a bevy of armed police there with pistols hanging from their thighs.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my abiding image, that these guns, I mean, they really are. They're carried around like Wild West holsters strapped to their thighs, and they can pull out at any time. And then today, the amount of armed police who arrived, you see the silver vans arriving and the guys getting out like SAS men.
Right.
You know,
and they're the ones that wear sort of the grey
uniforms.
Right?
I mean, they were on the scene very, very quickly indeed. Do you remember about a couple of months ago, the London Evening Standard had a picture on the front of a group of these guys armed to the teeth, you know, with face masks and guns and all this kind of stuff. And they said, you know, this is what terrorists face. And at the time I said, well, that's all very well if you were on a battlefield, but we don't know where terrorists are going to attack. So these guys may be very highly trained, but will they ever be in the right place at the right time?
Sure.
Today, they were. I mean, we didn't know when it first started. It was a lone attacker. He was shot dead very quickly, but the amount of armed police and highly trained, you could tell highly trained armed police on the scene very quickly was impressive.
Well, this point was made earlier in the day, and I was listening to Talk Radio and some of the witnesses that they had on there. They were saying, you know, the great thing about these armed police is that they go into a situation like this, they don't know whether or not they're going to be walking into an ambush. They don't know whether this guy is the first of 100 people. And, I mean, I think they have done a tremendous job. A couple of good tweets to read out. Here's one from Angry Barry the Trucker. He says, the only way to stop these creatures is to exterminate their loved ones when they commit horrid acts. If they knew their relatives would be erased, they would think twice before they commit murder. Well, you see, I'm not sure that's the answer either, because the problem is, as is often said, do you want to become the monster in order to defeat the monster?
I totally agree.
Does that not do any more damage?
I totally agree with you. 2 observations on that. That, of course, was the tactic of the most evil regime that's ever been on earth, the Nazi regime.
Yeah.
Whenever they had a suspect they wanted to acquire and they couldn't find him, they do the family instead and keep doing the family until the guy came forward. And, you know, if a man committed a crime against the Third Reich or something, they'd wipe out half of his family. That's the horror of what was going on in those days.
Sure.
In the modern world, in Israel, sometimes if somebody is found to have, you know, committed a terrorist act against Israel, the Israelis will just go round to where he lives and just demolish his house.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. And they tell the family to come out.
And they will literally take no prisoners.
Yeah. They tell the family to get out of there. You've got 5 minutes to get out of your house. Why? Because we're demolishing it. We will not allow the houses of terrorists to stand in Israel. And they just demolish it.
And not only are they demolishing it, but they're going to have to demolish it from a plane, which is flying at about 20,000 feet, which is going to fire a big bloody rocket right up it.
Well, sometimes, but usually, because I've seen it happen, it happens with a JCB. You know, the bulldozer just comes up, it just bulldozes it down, and that's it. You're homeless, and so there are regimes around the world who resort to that sort of thing. But I have to agree with you. In this country, I feel that sort of response is not on.
Well, many of the MPs yesterday who were talking to various media were saying, you know, we don't really want to turn this place into a fortress.
No.
People are still allowed to go into, albeit that it has become slightly safer now than it used to be.
Yes.
Because you used to be able to just walk in.
Yes.
But, you know, every constituent in this country can go to the Parliament and see their MP and have tea with them and talk to them about whatever it is their problem is, you know, and it might mean that they have to make an appointment and all of that. But they don't want to change that.
No.
They don't want to make it into a place where nobody can go. And here's a couple of tweets here.
Yeah.
Mark says this: all police guarding the mother of all parliaments should be armed, surely. And Jeff says, with all the surveillance we have in and around, the police must be able to backtrack this car, getting an idea from where this terrorist started.
How do we know it wasn't stolen? I mean, we just don't know. Do you know the one thing that really amazed me? When the car crashed into the railings and there was smoke coming from the engine compartment, the guy had come out, he'd run around the corner. my thoughts were, why didn't they immediately clear the whole of the area? Because how did they know that car wasn't a car bomb as well?
Yeah, well, that's the other terrifying thing. I mean, if the guy had been, for example, wearing a suicide vest...
Exactly.
Or the car had been packed with explosives...
Exactly, yeah.
It got very, very close.
Yes.
So, and apparently, to within where he was shot... was within something like 15 feet of the MPs who were voting.
That's right.
In the division lobby on the pensions bill.
That's right. Yeah.
So I mean, they were all witnesses to it. You know.
But you know, there's a load of theories here coming together. Your theory that this guy was a lone nutter, you know, who just decided to take it out on society for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It does go along with the fact that he wasn't exactly, you know, armed, you know, to the eyeballs, was he? With explosives wrapped around his chest, with a bomb in the car to blow the car up.
That's what I'm saying. The guy
that.
is an idiot. Now, apropos of that, I've got John from Kent having a go at me. He says, "What a PC liberal idiot Mike Graham is if he thinks this attack in London today was not terrorism. The Met said it was. You cretin." Well, John, thanks very much for insulting me, for calling me a cretin. What I'm trying to say to you, if your brain is not too stupid to understand it, is that we should stop calling it terrorism because it is not the act of anybody who has got anything more than a warped sense of history going on inside their brain.
Yeah.
And they are not actually people who have got a cause. They are not fighting a political war. They are not terrorists. They are idiots.
Yeah.
Okay, John? And so are you. Let's talk to Gary, who's in Edmonton. Hi, Gary.
Hi. The reason I'm calling is just to say when a police officer discharges a weapon, they're immediately suspended and put under investigation. And I hope this police officer is cleared straight away and given a medal.
Well, I mean, the circumstances of it will be investigated. You're absolutely right. Because the thing is, Gary, when we shoot somebody dead in this country, we have a thorough examination of the reasons for it. But you can't give these guys medals because that is what they're trained to do. That's their job. And to give a medal means almost like, you know, he did something heroic. He didn't. He did his job, the job he's trained for. And we have to keep a sense of perspective on this. Start giving people medals for doing their job in the war against terrorism. I'm afraid you're making exceptional decisions when you've got to keep it on the straight and narrow.
Well, I suppose
this is what we have to do and respond like this at all times.
Sure. Although I guess none of those police officers would be looking for that, would they? It would just,
no, of course not.
But I mean, if one of them is killed in action,
yes,
then you would be okay about giving them a medal, surely.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. I'm not against giving, brave people medals. What I'm saying is that on this particular occasion, it could have been any one of, I don't know, a dozen policemen who were faced with the situation of a madman coming towards them and killing people who had to be taken out.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And also, Gary, I mean, you probably know this already. Thanks for the call. One of the MPs who was there on the scene is being sort of lauded, generally speaking.
He tried to bring the policeman back to life.
He gave CPR to the policeman before he passed away.
And you know that guy whose name I can't immediately hit on, but I will. He's got a strange sounding name. He lost his brother in the Bali
bombing.
The Bali bombing 15 years ago,
which is incredible.
Amazing.
When you think about that. Yeah. Here's one from John in Glasgow. Mike, I think the word that you're looking for to describe this type of criminal is coward. And here's one from Dom. MG, do you think the emergency services should have attempted to save this maniac's life?
Yeah.
I'd have left him to perish in the street. Well, again, you know, if you talk to the people who are in the emergency services, they don't have an agenda in that way, do they? I mean, they save whoever. And we were talking to Ian Lee just before this show started from Talk Radio, and he was saying, you know, why are they using a picture of the paramedics?
Well, it's a very dramatic picture. That's why he's on
the assailant as well as the victim.
He's on a stretcher. Tobias Elwood, by the way, is the name of the government, the MP. I'm sorry, who tried to help the policeman.
But does it not make you feel sort of slightly good about Britain? That the picture that many of the papers have used is of the assailant, being helped and having his life saved by paramedics. Yeah. Because as much as we hate him, as much as we'd like him to die a horrible death, we save him because we're Britain.
Well, A, we're Britain. B, the Hippocratic Oath of anybody is in the medical profession is to save life, not kill it. But there is also a very good, cynical reason why we wanted to keep this guy alive, and that is because he's got information in his head as to why he committed this attack, and we need that information.
Yeah.
And that was probably, in my view, the primary reason for keeping him alive.
Yeah. Now, here's a question for you. Mark says this. How about the death penalty for terrorists, even if foiled in the act?
It's a whole new argument, I'm afraid, and we could spend 3 days debating that one. So, you know...
Well, we certainly can prove, I would imagine, from what goes on in America, just in the general criminal world, that the death penalty is not a deterrent.
It doesn't seem to be, does it?
And it certainly wouldn't be for fanatics, I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah.
But we'll take more of your calls. We've got lots more to do. We will be talking about other stuff as well later on, but it's a pretty momentous day in London in the last 24 hours, and we're marking it right here on TalkSport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
The Met Police are well up to speed for dealing with these sort of incidents, and this was apparently successfully resolved, although unfortunately an officer was shot. And those guys who are on the sharp end, on the point, are always going to take a risk, because that is probably the point where the risk is greatest.
As Mike Yardley, security expert, was talking earlier to Talk Radio, the story as it unfolded this afternoon. I think many of us were very happy that, obviously not happy about the situation, but happy that it didn't escalate into something else, because immediately that the police got involved, they all went inside the Houses of Parliament to see whether there was something else going on in there. And that's what I suppose, to go back to what I was saying at the beginning of the show, it's this one guy appears to be working on his own. Now, he might have had some help. He might have had somebody give him a car. He might have had somebody give him some money. But he doesn't. I mean, he didn't have a gun. He didn't have any kind of heavy artillery.
He had a couple of car bomb.
He had a couple of kitchen knives that you could have bought literally from Tesco's.
Yes, exactly.
And so he was not, in my view anyway, this kind of master, criminal terrorist.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Just a prat.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we've got a set of tomorrow morning's newspapers, which have come in, obviously, earlier, the first editions and all that. And I have to say that the way that the media world is changing, it would be a nightmare for us these days, Mike, as old newspaper men, how to style the papers when you've seen so much on running news all day. I mean, the BBC, for instance, today, as far as I am concerned, turned over BBC One to a news channel. They turned it into a news channel. It was running all afternoon. Right. Sky was running all afternoon. ITV had extra long bulletins. I mean, there were overseas channels, obviously, running it. Yeah. So you've seen and heard most things. So what do you do? And do you know what? If I had to pick one paper out at the moment, I'd pick out the Daily Mail. What they've done is they have turned it into what used to be called the Sunday Pictorial. Yes. There was a paper years and years ago that used to pride itself on big page pictures. You and I have been aware of magazines like this in America for years, like National Geographic, and it's the power of the picture which is the selling point here, which can outdo television because of the still nature. And if I look at the Daily Mail here, they've got a picture of the alleged killer. Well, I say alleged killer. I mean, I'm only saying that because I don't know what his name is yet. It hasn't been confirmed. But the day terror,
certainly the assailant.
He is the assailant. Yeah. Day terror came to Westminster. Okay, that's on 1, and then on 2 and 3, a spread over of pictures of the assailant being hauled into an ambulance, and then brilliantly on 4 and 5, because this is what I always demand of a newspaper. A great graphic showing exactly what happened in stages, from victim 1 at one side of the bridge right up to the point where the man runs into New Palace Yard and is eventually brought down. But it's a graphic done by an artist, like your father would have done. Yeah. Something that we would have pegged out, for want of a better word, when you peg out a picture, to as an aerial scene of what happened. And then you go to the next one. There's 2 terrific pictures on pages 4 and 5 of victims, one lying in the road, one lying on a pavement, and without any apology, the Daily Mail have published a picture of a woman whose shock in her eyes is so obvious. She's staring into space as a passerby is trying to comfort her because she's clearly in a terrible state of shock. On pages 8 and 9, it's similar, including a picture of a chap who has fallen 18 feet from the bridge, Westminster Bridge, onto one of the tunnels below that lead into the House of Commons.
That's right, and that was one of the pictures that we saw first on television, wasn't it? And at first, when I saw that picture, I thought that it was actually a picture of the assailant.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Who had been somehow shot and ended up there. But you and I both know that area quite well.
Exactly.
And it's a part where you would walk down to get close to the river.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And God knows what sort of injuries somebody has when they fall 18 feet onto hard concrete. On the next page is 10 and 11, a blown-up picture of the actual vehicle itself, rammed into the rails, smoke coming out, and so it goes on. And I think it's brilliant coverage because
newspapers are very good at this.
The pictures, I mean, have fascinated us, and we've been looking at newspapers for the last 35 years. Yeah. And it's a terrific production. I only pick on the Mail because they've done it so well. The Sun have done it well. The Times have done it well. They've all done it extremely well. And one of the reasons they've been able to do it, Mike, is because in your day and mine, we had to rely on getting our photographers down there with their heavy, bulky cameras and getting past the tapes and doing all that. Half of these pictures are taken on people's phone cameras.
Some of them will be, yeah. Although a lot of them are I mean, those are more blurry ones. A lot of them are. And also, because it's in central London,
yes.
There was, I mean, this was one of the things that was being said yesterday. There was an inordinate number of journalists, of MPs, of people who would normally be the sort of people who would be tweeting out stuff anyway.
Yes.
You know, it's a bit like if you and I were down there.
Yes.
We would have been tweeting out stuff.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Just on the basis that we were down there. You know?
Yes, that's
right.
right.
The thing I find interesting is on that first spread that you talked about.
Yes.
The second one, 4 and 5,
yeah.
where they show the graphic of the car just driving all the way across.
That's what I mean. That's the sort of thing your father would have pegged out as
I mean, it's horrific, really, when you look at it, because the victim, one, is all the way over on the south side of the river.
Yeah, almost by St Anthony's Hospital.
Yeah, and all the way to victim 14, which is by Portcullis House, on completely the opposite side. And you often wonder, like we wondered when we watched the thing in Nice, how is it that nobody stopped that lorry before they did?
How'd you stop a 40-ton lorry?
But, you know, again, it happens so quickly.
That's
and
right.
if the guy was driving at reasonably high speed, say 40 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour, I mean, before you know what's happening, he's on the other side of the river.
I mean, imagine yourself as a driver on that road when all of a sudden on the pavement on your left, a 4x4 car screams past you.
Yeah.
It would take you seconds to actually regain your belief of what's going
driver,
on.
you mean?
And then do you say to yourself, that guy's murdering people, I've got to go after him and ram his car to stop him?
Because you wouldn't be able to.
Well,
because by the time you got to him, he's already
he's
at
gone.
the other side of the river.
He's gone.
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's I mean, in a situation like that, supposing I saw it coming towards me, would I turn the car on its side, my car, so he ran into it to stop it? I don't know what you'd do, even if he had the opportunity. I don't know what people would do.
Yeah. Here's one from somebody calling himself Dark Matter. The guy in the Nice attack was alone too. He killed 86 in the name of Allah. Was he just a prat too? Yeah, I'm afraid he was, mate. I mean, my point about this is that this is the new terrorism, and I think part of the reason that we need to fight it is by not recognising it as proper terrorism. That's my point of view. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong.
Are you saying it's a new development in the attack on Western society?
I'm saying it is, and I'm saying that these people who are perpetrating these acts... It's not a matter of how many they kill. It's not a matter of how much damage they do.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that they are being encouraged by these sickos in ISIS who say, you know, you could act as a lone wolf.
Yes.
You know, the end result for them is death, right?
Yes.
The hopeful sort of damage that they do is to cause fear and create panic in every Western country and in every Western city.
Yes.
We must surely be able to come up with some form of prevention for this, other than just hoping it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the Prime Minister's statement was impressive. I thought she, you know, very strong and very determined. I know this sounds very, very odd, but what I noticed more about the Prime Minister than anything else was that she'd had a new hairstyle. And
well, she's just done this shoot for Vogue, hasn't she?
That's
Which
right.
I think was in the papers just the other day.
That's right. And I found it a little bit off-putting that I was noticing her hairstyle, her new hairstyle, which was distracting me from the words that were coming out of her mouth. And I know that sounds ludicrous, but it is a very distinctly new hairstyle. Yeah. And I know this is ridiculous, but did she get a new hairstyle to go on camera to make this announcement to the nation? No. It just so happened she'd had her hair done.
Yeah, it's just the vagaries of events, dear boy, as they say. Let's talk to Gordon, who's in Grimsby. Yeah. Hi, Gordon.
Hello there.
Yeah, hi. What would you like to say, Gordon?
I was listening to your programme, and I agree with a lot of your views, but I don't agree with this view of the death penalty. I don't know, in liberalised Britain, don't you think it's safer to get rid of these people completely altogether out of the way?
Yeah, but it won't, though, will it? That's the problem,
Why
Gordon.
won't it?
Well, hang on.
It stops them from radicalising people in jail, and we know people inside jail can get mobile phones. They can still be in touch with
but my point is,
why do we run that risk?
All right, well, Gordon, well, hang on. Well, let's just pan out exactly what you're saying here.
Yeah, what is he saying?
You want the death penalty for what crime exactly?
I want the death penalty for people who terrorise people, blow people up.
Right.
Yeah, but at the moment, there's nobody to apply the death penalty to. The assailant's dead.
We're talking about this one. What if there was another one that isn't dead? You've just already said you don't believe in the death penalty. So in that case,
well, I didn't say actually. I didn't say I didn't believe in it. I said that it's not. It doesn't act as a deterrent. It doesn't act as a deterrent in any situation.
It acts as a deterrent because it takes a wicked person off the face of this earth.
Yeah, but that's not a deterrent, is it?
Not being able to do it
No,
Sorry?
but it's not a deterrent, Gordon. A deterrent is something that makes somebody not do something.
It's a deterrent.
No, excuse me, Gordon.
Can't do any more
Gordon,
evil, can
I
he?
don't know why you're arguing with me, Gordon. We're both on the same side here. My point is this. A deterrent is something that stops somebody from doing something, okay? If you say to a terrorist, if you do this, you will be put to death, they will not stop doing what they do. So therefore, it's not a deterrent, okay?
Don't agree with you.
Okay,
well, you don't agree with me, that's fine.
Gordon, thank you very much indeed for calling in.
Thanks for your
Good
thought.
of you.
I think let's have a sensible debate about the death penalty, but what I'm telling you is that it will not deter people from committing heinous crimes because they think they're going to heaven anyway in the first place, as Mike was telling us.
Yes.
John from Warrington says, I agree with MG by calling this idiot coward a terrorist. It just inspires other idiot cowards to do the same. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm trying to say to people, look, if you put these people in some kind of, put them on some kind of pedestal as if they're doing something valid and important for the cause of ISIS, then more people will do it. If you treat them like scum, like they are, maybe they won't. This is Talk Sport. Lots and lots of tweets coming in, lots of people agreeing with me that maybe what we should do is not treat these people with the same kind of respect as some other terrorists have been treated. Darren says this, MG, do I detect a bit of scepticism as to if this was a terrorist attack or just a nutter? The lack of casualties makes me wonder. Well, I mean, it's not real. I mean, of course, the police have called it a terrorist attack. Of course, the police have said that it is the actions of somebody who wanted to kill many, many innocent people, which in many ways is the definition of a terrorist attack. My argument is slightly more philosophical. What I'm saying is, let's not give them the oxygen of publicity to say that they are terrorists, which gives them a sort of credence and a sort of, I don't know, respectability amongst their peers.
Yeah, no,
they've done something decent.
I understand that. To state the blinkingly obvious, this could have been much worse. The guy hit 33 people on the bridge.
Yeah.
Now, so far, there's only 5 dead, including the assailant himself and a policeman who was obviously stabbed when he ran out the car. So, out of the 33 people hit on the bridge, 3 have suffered fatal wounds, and there are some who are terribly badly injured in hospitals around London.
Right.
However, you could be looking at a death toll of 20, couldn't you? If the pavement had been more crowded, if the car had perhaps been a bigger vehicle and if
it had been a lorry or something,
more powerful or something like that. So in a way, let's breathe a sigh of relief that we are talking about, in a situation in which you feel it's right to say, was it terrorism or was it, a mad, crazy act by a deranged nutter? Yeah, sure.
I think it helps everybody to put it into a different perspective.
Yes.
That's all. Western says this, gents, the team here in Hong Kong who listen to you each morning to get going, send our love and stay safe. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much indeed.
David says this, I think police in high-profile locations should now always be armed, hopefully to stop terrible murders like we saw today. Well, I mean, there are plenty of armed cops around London. That's the other thing which is slightly puzzling.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is things happen so quickly, like they did in France, like they did in Germany, where by the time you've sort of realised what's going on, and you've started firing on a car, then it's probably already run through the previous 3 minutes, 33 people.
I mean, look, this car didn't arrive at the far end of Westminster Bridge with a flashing light on top announcing, by the way, I'm going to mount the pavement now and run down as many people as I can.
Yeah.
In which case, of course, it would be taken out. This is why it's so dangerous. That car was no different to millions of other cars driving around London today.
Yeah.
So how do you spot a potential terrorist attack if the guy is as normal to all intents and purposes as everybody else?
Exactly
the
right.
answer is you can't.
Now, how about this from Ricky, who says, figuratively sticking our heads in the sand will discourage attacks? ? We already do that when the media won't even describe the attacker. Now, the media are often accused of not doing that deliberately.
Yeah.
The reason that nobody has got the details of who the attacker is because the police have not released it. Now, if the police don't release the guy's identity, it would be irresponsible for anybody to name him because they think they figure out who he is. Turns out last night Channel 4 named the guy and got it wrong. And the guy that they named, it turned out, was actually in prison.
Yes.
And before that had already done the rounds on social media, everyone was saying, well, how is this possible? How is it possible that this guy who was associated with this illegal group who's walking around in Britain, how is it, people started going nuts. It turned out it was wrong.
Well, it doesn't,
so you've got to be very careful.
It doesn't surprise me that was Channel 4. I mean, Jon Snow is the main sort of, regards himself as, honcho number one in the news bulletins and the news programmes on Channel 4, who last year, or the year before, made a very inaccurate statement on a tweet saying that the former Lord Chancellor what was his name? It was
Tony Blair's guy?
No, Mrs. Thatcher's guy. His son
Lawson.
is Dominic Lawson. Yeah. Lord Lawson was residing in his second home in France and putting out messages which are sort of anti-British. In fact, he lives in France. He hasn't got a second home.
No.
And when that was pointed out by his son Dominic Lawson, that's where he lives.
Yeah.
And Jon Snow was asked, to correct it. The correction never came. So inaccurate information coming from that source is nothing new. Actually,
It's nothing new. And I suppose we shouldn't stand on too high of a horse.
No, I'm not standing on a high horse. I'm just saying that if one has that attitude towards the facts, then obviously,
and I think
it's going to be open to error.
No, but I also think genuinely now people are very, very careful about the information that they put out, particularly in the aftermath of an event like this, because very often there are Photoshop pictures. There are, fake news sites that put things out that blame certain people. Tommy Robinson, the guy from the EDL, turned up at the site, and people went out and put a story out saying people were outraged that he turned up, when in fact he was saying, well, why not be outraged about the fact that the event has taken place in the first place, rather than outraged the fact that I've turned up. I mean, what I can do, if you wish, is describe to you what the guy looks like in the Daily Mail, but that would be the same as making up a name for him.
Well, of course it would,
because I mean, I could describe a guy that looks as if he has brown skin, but he may not have brown skin. He may have been on holiday. He looks like a guy who's got a beard. He may have a beard, but so does half the team playing for England over in Germany. It means nothing.
The difficulty with doing that, of course, is that somebody's listening saying, well, that sounds like the bloke next door and he hasn't come home from work yet.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So you've got to be very, very careful
you
start trying to do that sort of thing.
Becky says this, and it's nothing to do with the press being in some way complicit with the PC world. That is absolutely, that's a balderdash, right? So don't accuse us of that. Becky says this, we're trying to fight an ideology. These people believe they're doing the right thing. Let's not tar all Muslims, however, which is a fair enough thing to say, but I'm not even sure that is accurate, because I don't think these people, like this guy that did this today, has an ideology. He's a complete and utter nutcase. You know, there is no ideology. As you said, he may be on drugs. Even if he's not on drugs, he's deluded. He seems to think that he's going to go to heaven and have a great time with a load of virgins. I mean, whatever he is, whatever he thinks, the guy is a nutcase. Simple as that.
I mean, to be honest, imagine that guy getting up yesterday morning and thinking, now what have I got on today?
Yeah.
And a few hours later, he embarks on an orgy of massacring people and killing a policeman. And did he know what he was going to do when he got up yesterday morning? This is the point. We simply don't know, and that's why we've got to find out exactly where it's coming from. And you're quite right to question, what was the motive? How prepared was the motive? How much was the motive associated with a group of other people in this country? All those questions need answering. If it turns out that, in fact, it was his own idea and he did it himself, and he didn't have a weapon apart from a couple of kitchen knives, therefore he's not a, quote, professional terrorist, then we've got an even bigger problem, really, haven't we?
Well,
because it means that at any time somebody can get up on a Wednesday morning and decide, I think I'll wipe a few people out today in the name of whoever he thinks he's worshipping.
He's representing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's very simple to do that.
Yeah.
You get in a car, you're driving at some people, and you kill them.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, it's the simplest way to kill people that anybody's ever heard of.
That's right.
It's absolutely shocking.
It is.
Absolutely shocking. James says, it's great that you're talking about the cowardly act that took place today. We're lucky to have maybe the best intelligence service. And certainly it's true that an awful lot of activity, which has been going on, and you were saying this earlier, that has stopped the sort of the maybe the more serious terrorist acts.
Absolutely.
In terms of actual car bombs and the kind of thing that went on in 7/7.
That's right.
That has now left them with this only as their choice.
Absolutely. One potential terrorist attack was thwarted when the spooks at GCHQ were alerted to the fact that there would been an upsurge in sales of that stuff that they use in hairdressers to bleach hair. You know the stuff I'm talking about?
Yes, I know. Ammonia. Is it ammonia?
No, it's not ammonia. It's something else. But it can be turned into explosives.
Right.
And when that was traced, of all the sources that GCHQ use, they suddenly raided a load of quite upmarket hair salons, took it all away, and then found the people who'd been ordering it and taking it elsewhere, and that prevented a terrorist attack.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to remember what it's called now, but it is some compound that that used to be. They don't sell it anymore. In the stuff that bleaches your hair. You know, if I went in there and wanted my hair made darker or something like that, which I once did once upon a time.
Yes, you once made it reddish. Didn't you?
That's right. Then then it was whatever that stuff
Well,
is.
this is where in America, after the Timothy McVeigh bombing of Oklahoma City, they suddenly just started keeping an eye on people that bought large amounts of fertiliser.
Yes, that's right. Of course,
because
they did,
that was a bomb made out of fertiliser.
Yeah,
you make a bomb out of anything.
Although we knew about fertiliser in this country many, many years, in fact, decades before that. That was the most popular form of homemade bomb.
Indeed, the Professor. Let's finish it off here because we're going to move on to some other things in a moment.
Yeah.
It's a terrible story. There is fantastic coverage of it in all the papers.
Yeah.
There will be fantastic coverage of it throughout the day here on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
Yeah.
Let's finish it off with this from the Professor. He says, I've always argued we should stop calling them terrorists. We should just call them for what they are, cold-blooded murderers. And I think that's a very good way to end it and to call whoever has done this, whoever he may be, because he is an absolute and utter scumbag. This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
People are pointing out that it's hydrogen peroxide you're thinking of. Which
Hydrogen
should be made
peroxide, definitely.
into bombs. But talking of other matters, because we are going to move on to other matters now. Not that we will not take a call from somebody. If you've got a good point to make, by all means, give us a ring, 08717 22 And later on in the show, we'll be talking to the Times Washington correspondent about the way Donald Trump has reacted to this particular incident. Because as you can imagine, he's making hay quite largely out of it as well. But let's talk a little bit about Mr. Southgate, Pep Southgate, as we like to call him. Live on TalkSport last night, England took on Germany in the first proper game of his new tenure. And I have to say, regardless of what Jason Cundy was saying, it was another bit of a disappointment, wasn't it?
Well, of course it was. I mean,
squib.
I'm looking at some of the reports, right? Andy Dunn, who is, great columnist, been on the Mirror for many, many years.
Yeah.
He's been on other papers as well, but he's on the Mirror at the moment, chief sports writer. A narrow defeat on the night, but Southgate's side looks so bright. But it's the defeat bit that I can't get over. Germany won, England 0.
Yeah.
Podolski scored in the 69th minute, bit of a screamer from way out. Yeah, fine. But, we lost 1-0 in a friendly.
I mean, you said a very true thing last night,
yes.
Quoting Gary Lineker, that basically what happens when England play Germany is that they play football for 90 minutes and then Germany wins.
That's right, yeah. Exactly.
I mean, you couldn't have been more opposite, could you?
No, exactly. That's exactly
and,
what
I mean, at one point, as I was watching the game last night when it was still 0-0, start the second half, you sort of knew it was going to go horribly wrong because a couple of the England players were sort of passing the ball about, looking quite confident on the ball.
Yeah.
And the commentator started to say things like, and I think it was Clive Tilsley, started to say things like, well, of course, England are looking quite sort of serene.
That's right,
the word he used, serene on the ball now.
Yeah.
And, of course, as soon as he started saying that, literally 5 minutes later, they were 1-0 down.
I heard Gareth Southgate saying that 6 weeks ago he started thinking about what sort of formation England would need.
Yeah.
Well, if that's all he's been thinking about for the last 6 weeks, has he got enough to do? And
well, he clearly hasn't.
And then he gets the players for 1 day's preparation before the game and institutes this 3 minute at the back. Everybody's saying, what a refreshing approach, but we lost. So how good was the 3 men at the back formation?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
What was the point?
By the way, nobody has mentioned, is it because we're just kindly or is it because we don't upset our colleagues, our millions of listeners north of the border?
Oh, yeah.
But Scotland won, Canada won.
I think it's a good result for Scotland. I actually put this out because somebody started having a go at me because I'd put out a tweet earlier on in the evening.
Scotland won, Canada won.
Yeah, well, hang on. Let me tell you the story, right? I put out a tweet
Until yesterday, I didn't know Canada had a national football team.
Yeah, but you see, you're falling into the trap that a lot of people fall into, which is the trap in which you think Scotland are any good.
Yeah.
Scotland are terrible, right? They are useless. They're actually worse than useless. They will not qualify for the Russian World Cup.
Yeah.
They did not qualify for the Euros, even though everything was put in their way to make it easy for them to qualify. Right?
Yes.
They are hopeless. So the fact that they actually got a draw with Canada, I would say, is remarkable.
Yeah.
Absolutely remarkable. I would congratulate Gordon Strachan right now.
I think you haven't gone mad, have you?
No.
I mean, to say that, it was a great result, drawing with Canada, really?
Well, of course it is. They're rubbish, Scotland.
Really?
They could not beat, I would say, who are you? Queen's Park Rangers.
Yeah.
Could they?
Well, no, I suppose not. But nevertheless, on an international scale, I think that's pretty shocking. But anyway, look, so the Gareth Southgate era with his, earnest
starts with a whimper.
Assessment starts with a complete whimper. I totally agree. And I don't, I don't know where the attitude of, if we lost, we failed, and if we won, we succeeded, has gone to. It looks like we've lost but succeeded, according to all the reports I've read. So I'm not sure what's going on there.
Well, people are so hoping that Southgate is going to work that I think they're literally grasping at straws.
Yeah, I mean,
But all of the players that came on to play for England all seem to be far more interested in their haircuts, in their beards, in the way that they were coiffured than anything else,
Yeah. Oh, so close, says one headline. Lallana hits the post, then Podolski's screamer shatters Southgate. We lost. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but still, the big one's coming up at the weekend.
The big one?
The big one.
What's the big one?
England-Lithuania.
Lithuania, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
A waste of time.
Bated breath.
Just a waste of time.
I tell you what I thought was the best story today.
Yeah, go on.
And I tweeted out the first thing when I heard about it. It was, sadly, the death of Ronnie Moran.
Ronnie Moran,
now,
yes.
Being brought up on, within the Merseyside hinterland.
You almost said
Everton,
being brought up on Merseyside there.
The Merseyside hinterland.
No, you've always said to me that I was not brought up on Merseyside.
I said the Merseyside hinterland.
What, you mean Chester?
Yes, Chester, yeah. Which
How
is
is
in
that the Merseyside hinterland?
Well, because the Everton fan base goes way beyond Chester, right down the North Wales coast, Hey,
by the way, speaking of Everton, did you see that a tweet went out yesterday which said that today is the day that Everton are going to announce the plans for the new stadium?
Today,
and apparently
Thursday.
Today, Thursday.
That's great news if it's true.
And it was quoting a piece from the Liverpool Echo.
Oh, right.
Saying that it's going to happen today. Now, I wasn't able to pin it down and get any sort of definitive answer on it, but keep your eyes peeled for that.
I certainly will. Thank you for the warning.
Not at all.
No, I mean, right from the 60s and the early 60s when we were kids, you were very aware of this guy, Bill Shankly, and very aware of his, gritty, tough-talking Scottish accent and all that kind of stuff, and players like the Flying Pig, Tommy Lawrence, and Rowdy Yates, the centre-half, and Ian St John, and people like that. And part of it in the background was always Ronnie Moran. So he sadly died now at 83, and he had nearly 50 years' service with Liverpool. And it's amazing the tributes that have been pouring in for him from all sorts of people, from Stephen Gerrard, Jamie Carragher, and
they're
Kenny
all Liverpool
Dalglish.
legends themselves.
Well, of course they are.
Of course they would heap praise.
But the point is, he's become a legend without ever being the manager. He was caretaker a couple of times, I think, when Liverpool hit one crisis or another for a short period of time. But he was never. I mean, even Roy Evans, who was part of the famous boot room, was manager for a number of seasons.
He was quite a good manager as well.
I thought he was a very good manager, Roy Evans, but he was made to manage in a dual capacity, wasn't he, with the French guy. What was his name?
Gerard Houllier.
Gerard Houllier, thank you very much indeed, yeah. And I think that rather cramped his style, as it would anybody else's.
Well, Ian Ladyman in the Mail calls Ronnie Moran the last of the boot room legends.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
So I guess he is
Joe Fagan, who became manager and was in charge, I think, sadly, at Heysel, I think he won one Champions League, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then the Heysel incident. Correct me, please, if I'm wrong. And, so there was Joe Fagan, Ronnie Moran, Bill Shankly, obviously. Who else did we mention?
Well, Roy Evans, you said.
Roy Evans, that's right, yeah. So, I suppose it is the end
and
of the
there's also a guy called Bennett in this picture here as well.
I don't know who he is.
Okay.
No,
It doesn't give you a first name. It's Shankly, Paisley, Fagan and Bennett.
Yeah, okay.
With Roy Evans.
Yeah, I never remember Ronnie Moran playing for Liverpool. I think I first remember seeing Liverpool play in the 1965 Cup final against Leeds. They won 2-1 in St John.
Ruben Bennett is the guy.
Ruben Bennett, okay, I don't know him. Scored the winning goal, and Ronnie Moran apparently played in some of the qualifying rounds up to the final, but didn't play in the final. So I wasn't aware of him as a player.
Okay, well, Jamie Carragher and Jamie Redknapp and Kenny Dalglish all talking about him.
Yes.
Jamie Redknapp says he always used to call him Harry.
Yes,
and that was one of the ways that he kind of kept him under control
because of his dad, obviously. Yeah. But when you get a guy like that, it's part of your heritage and your history of your club, isn't it? It forges the legend of your club. And I mean, for instance, at Everton, Joe Royle, who is still there now, Duncan Ferguson. Obviously, the giant of the past, Dixie Dean, and recently we lost Alex Young. But those sort of people, those sort of characters, those sort of enormous names during the decades of the history of your club, that's what forges the heritage and the brilliance of the club that everybody takes to their heart. Yes,
indeed. Now, there's a guy called Peter who's very upset with you.
Oh yes,
he says such a great show ruined by that word "guy." He claims that we've said the word guy 127 times.
Yeah, about who? About everybody?
Well, he doesn't say.
Oh.
But he says it's an American slang word. It is not CNN. Say bloke, man, or geezer, or chap.
Well,
we've had this conversation with somebody else, Peter,
yes,
actually.
yes.
And guy is, in fact, not an American word.
No.
It is a word that has been used in this country ever since the days of Guido Fawkes.
Yes, that's right.
When the word guy first came into common usage in the English language.
That's right.
So for you to claim that it's an American word is complete and utter tosh, mate.
Yeah, it is tosh.
So from one guy to another, Peter... You know, I'm afraid you're barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah, you certainly are. I've been using that word ever since I was a teenager or before.
So. I mean, it's not about being an American word. It's about being a word which has been in use in the English language since the Gunpowder Plot.
Yeah, exactly. And anyway, it's a common enough expression for a group of people. Hi, guys. And it doesn't matter if there are women in that collection.
That's right.
I would always say, hi, guys, how are we doing? It's a very common, very colloquial expression. And what was the guy's name? Peter.
Peter, yeah.
Peter, I do not take your criticism on board under any circumstances. Don't contact me again if you're going to make such a spurious accusation on a non-issue.
Get lost,
Push
Peter.
off.
Yeah, push off. This is Talk Sport. This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. Lots more coming up, of course, including Porky Vision. There's been an awful lot of Porky Vision activity going on in the last couple of days. And also the Porky Quiz tomorrow will be, of course, on the subject of the Masters.
The Masters, yeah.
Even though the Masters is a couple of weeks away.
That's right.
We thought we'd get in a little bit early.
Yes.
You can tweet us, of course, at the two mics, at Mike Parrier and at IROMG.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I found to be an extraordinary story yesterday before all of this terrible stuff at Westminster happened, was the Thames water sewage story.
Wasn't that horrible? I hate talking about this. Is it 25 million gallons of sewage or something?
Well, it's not that I want to talk about that in a specific manner.
They've been fined 20 million quid, haven't
They've been fined a massive amount of money.
Good.
Also, I only discovered yesterday that it turns out that the people that used to own Thames Water, who were a foreign-based sort of energy company...
French, weren't they?
Yeah, have now sold off the whole thing
to
a sort of hedge fund, effectively.
Yeah, well, all businesses get sold to hedge funds eventually.
No, but they shouldn't, though. The point is that this is a utility, right?
Yeah.
These are people who are providing a natural service. I mean, I've never believed that water should be something you pay for anyway.
No, I don't
because
either.
It comes out of the sky. You know, it's not owned by anybody. Why the hell does some company get to say that we own all the water that falls on the country of Britain?
Because somebody owes to the cost of building a reservoir and then actually maintaining the quality of the water. You have to pay for the quality of the water.
Well, there's a certain kind of carrying charge, but the amount of money, I mean, it tells you something, does it not? That the people that now own this company, which is a supplier of water, are all pension funds.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're all hedge funds.
Yes. No,
they're all people who make an enormous amount of money by having money.
But that happens in the end anyway. Loads of businesses are owned by
but that doesn't make it right, though.
Doesn't make it right, but I'm afraid it's part of our westernised financial system.
Well, I don't like it.
I mean, if you took your argument to its ultimate end, right? Oh, nobody should have to pay for water. Water belongs to every human being.
Yeah.
Well, then you're going down the road of all property is theft, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
You are?
No, property
What
is
you're saying is that every human being has a right to have a shelter over their head and they shouldn't have to pay for it.
Houses do not fall out of the sky.
Yeah.
Right? You don't suddenly wake up one morning
What about food?
Oh, look.
Food comes from the earth. No, so why do we pay for food?
Well, no, because food is manufactured, right? Water is not manufactured.
Water's manufactured.
No, it isn't. Water comes out of the sky.
Well, hang on.
When was the last time you stood in a rainstorm and thought to yourself, isn't it amazing that Thames Water have made all this water for me to stand under?
Okay, so if I said to you, in future, you will exist with water for your bath and your shower and for your washing up and all that kind of stuff, entirely on the contents of the water that falls into a bucket on the roof of your apartment, right?
There are people
what would you say to me?
Well, there are people who collect water. You know that, right?
They're in water butts.
Yeah, in water butts.
But they accumulate over the period of weeks and months.
But if you're smart about it, you can collect enough water just to recycle
Right, okay. Well, in that case, why don't you write to your local water company and say, thanks very much indeed, don't bother supplying me any more water, I'm not paying the bills, water belongs to every human being, and I've put a bucket on the roof and I'm going to use that. How much water would you get? You get 1 inch a month.
Well, let me explain something to you about water, okay?
Yes.
The water that I use in Sussex comes from a well.
Yeah.
Okay, it does not come from any water company.
Okay.
All right. It comes from
so
a
you
well.
don't pay for it then?
We do pay for it, yes.
Oh, well, why do you pay for it if it comes out the ground?
Because the water company
Yeah.
have claimed that it's their water.
Right.
Now, I would tell you that it's not their water. It's
Whose
actually
water is
it's
it?
actually our water.
Oh, well, you shouldn't pay for it then.
No,
You should
exactly
go to court
right.
and tell them
Yeah,
I'm
we
not
should.
paying.
We should, but the trouble is it becomes a very long
Ridiculous
and drawn-out
arguments, honestly.
situation. All I'm telling
Because
you
they've
is
got equipment to be able to suck it out of the ground that you haven't got.
it's got a well.
Well, go and buy your own pump and pump it out the well.
Well, I could do that.
Well, go on then. Get on with it. Stop whinging.
I'm not whinging. I'm just explaining to you that
It's
it's a very-
hypothetical
that it's
nonsense.
a ridiculous situation.
Right, okay. So by your argument, you haven't answered the question. All food, then, should be accessible
No.
for free to
No,
all human
you're-
beings
no,
because
you're-
it comes out the ground.
No, you're widening the argument.
No, it
Fish
comes out-
fingers don't come out of the ground.
Why do you pay for apples when apples drop out of a tree into your lap?
I don't pay for apples. I have an apple tree in my garden.
Right,
so I go and pick them.
So you don't pay for any apples?
Don't pay for apples.
Why do other human beings have to pay for apples?
Because they haven't got an apple tree.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then apple trees shouldn't belong to anybody, should they?
Well, they do if they're on your property.
Well, they shouldn't be on your
That's
property.
the point.
All
If
property
I
is theft,
decide-
all food
No,
is free.
You see, you're incapable of having an argument about anything sensible. All
No,
you have
I'm
is a
not.
black and white view of the world.
No, I don't.
You said something very interesting yesterday about Northern Ireland, which
Yes.
I wish you would remember for the rest of the life.
Yes.
Which is that, there's many thousands of shades of grey.
That's right.
Everything's not black and white.
That's right. That's exactly
And that's
what I
what the
said.
world is like. If I took a boat out and fished in the English Channel
Yes.
and came back with, I don't know, half a dozen cods and
Yeah.
a couple of red snappers
Yeah.
and decided that I was going to eat those over the course of the next week, do you think I should pay some fishery for myself having the right to fish those waters?
Well,
No, that's your argument about water.
No, it's not. You see, the way the economy works is this. You specialise in things you do in life and let other people get on with the things that you can't do. So, for instance...
Yeah, but if I want to go fishing, I can.
Of course you can. We all can. But the problem is that would take up quite a lot of time when
Not
you
really.
have to be in a radio studio earning money
Not
to
really.
be able to provide for your children.
Not really.
So what you do is you pay Bird's Eye, in effect, to go fishing for you.
I don't actually.
And they,
No.
and
I
they
do not
then...
pay. I do not
They
pay,
get the
I
cod
do
and they
not
put
pay
them into
Bird's
fish
Eye.
fingers and they put them in a freezer.
No, I do not pay Bird's Eye.
Yeah, you do.
No, I eat fish. I
Yes.
do not eat fish fingers.
Okay, well, that's, well, Bird's Eye produce a lot of fish as well, as well
they?
as fish fingers.
Well,
yeah.
I don't eat anything that Bird's Eye produce.
You see,
I go to the Sussex fishermen's
By-
huts
by your
and
re-
I buy fish from there.
By your ridiculous argument, you should have a sort of tea plantation, on the field beyond the hedge of your garden.
Uh-huh.
But you don't. What you do is you pay Taifu to go and actually grow a bit of tea in India and box
Right.
it up and send it back to you.
Well, how about this
That's
then?
what you do.
You think this is right, do you? The Canadian pension fund OMERS
Yeah.
and the Kuwait Investment Authority, right,
Yes.
own 26% of Thames Water.
Yeah.
The Kuwaiti Investment Authority.
Yeah, but they're very efficient companies.
Is that what you
I don't
think?
mind them owning it. Yeah.
They also own a stake in Kemble Water, which is the holding company behind Thames Water, right?
Yes.
The deal was delayed over the summer because people were not sure what was going to happen with Brexit. I find it absolutely and utterly ridiculous that these capital investment firms
Yeah.
hold the key
Yeah.
to what is essentially a human right, which is us having water.
You don't understand much about the Western economy, do you?
I did a degree in
the-
economics, actually, which
and-
is a lot more than you did.
Well, in that case, you've forgotten a lot because if you don't understand that the argument of and the support of capitalism is to maximise resources within the economy to the benefit of the many and not the few, then you've lost the plot, pal.
No, you've lost the plot and
No.
stop calling me pal, right? I've already told you I don't like to be called pal.
Oh, well,
Here's the thing.
I don't care whether you like being called
Thames
pal or not.
Water-
I will call you pal as and when I want to.
Yeah, right. Well, then you'll have to suffer the consequences. Thames
There won't be
Water
any.
is the UK's biggest water company, right?
Well, it's bound to be. It's in the southeast of England.
2.6 billion litres of drinking water to 9 million customers every day.
Yes.
Right? Now, do you think it's absolutely right that they should be able to make ludicrous profits,
Yeah.
ridiculous amounts of money,
Yeah.
and then, of course, pump a load of sewage into the rivers of this country?
Well, of course, that's not right to pump sewage into the rivers. The bigger argument is for you to say, surely the River Thames, from its source, which nobody's ever found, by the way, to the time that it spills out into the Thames estuary, belongs to everybody because it's part of nature. So why is one company allowed to go and literally suck millions of gallons
Exactly.
of that
Well,
water
that's
out
exactly
of the
my
River
point.
Thames every day and then
That's exactly
sell
my
it
point.
at a profit to other people?
If they wish to treat sewage, if they wish to, revamp water and rehouse water and all the rest of it, and can save water in some reservoirs, they should be allowed to charge
The problem
some
is-
kind of fee for that. But they don't own the water. That's my point.
Yeah, the problem is, because you're not smarter than the average bear, you never got in on the act of investing in utilities. I did. right from the very start.
Oh, so you're an investor in these companies?
I'm an investor in some of them. I'm investor in some of them.
Oh, what a surprise.
For instance...
So the porky selfish gene has kicked in, and because you've made a bucket load of money on some shares...
Excuse me.
You're quite happy for it to carry on.
Excuse me. I got in very early on British Telecom. I got in very early on British Gas.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the man of the people.
Yeah. And, well, no, I mean, the point is, all I was doing was ensuring that I had a stake in what you quite rightly describe as a national asset, i.e. the rainfall that falls over Great Britain, which is some of the heaviest in the world.
As usual, you are completely out of touch with the people, right? Richard says this: utilities should be government-run, profits should not be made on water, gas or electricity because people need it to live. Okay? Here's one from Ian, who says the water company here in Folkestone is part-owned by Morgan Stanley. Thames has paid about only £200,000 in tax over 12 years.
Really? I don't know anything about the tax arrangements.
Well, they don't pay enough tax. That's right.
I'd be in favour of renationalising the railways in this country.
That's only because you don't like the fact that you have to travel in on terribly badly run trains.
Well, no, they're not terribly badly run when they're running, but they're on strike all the time. And by the way, it's rather cavalier, isn't it, for the unions now to decide to go on strike, particularly in the northwest of England, on the day that the Grand National's being run.
Isn't that horrendously bad?
Hideous exploitation of working people who love a day out at the Grand National.
How are people supposed to get there?
Yeah, terrible. But I think they should be. But do you know what would happen if we renationalised British Rail? The problem is not enough facility would be given to first-class travel because that would be considered to be elitist.
Well, hang on, they had first-class travel when it was nationalised before.
They did, but I mean, it was, believe it or not, they had first, second and third.
Yeah.
Can you imagine travelling third class on a train? eh?
I remember you telling the story of the ancient third class, where people would literally be covered in some very noxious substances and be thrown out the windows of the second-class train.
They sat on the roofs of the second-class carriages and sometimes were pulled along in trolleys behind the carriages.
Right.
And on a bend, when some chap was urinating out of the first-class
family
carriage...
show, you know.
Yeah, I know, but it happened,
I didn't mean you to repeat it.
The wind would pick up the said fluid and splash it all over the faces of those in the carriages being towed behind the train at the back. It was very unpleasant.
Very unpleasant, yes. But that's not a reason not to renationalise it. I mean, I'm thinking more and more that they should renationalise not only the railways, but they should renationalise the water companies, and they should renationalise all the utility companies, gas and electricity, because they are taking the mickey and they are ripping the arse out of it, frankly, and they shouldn't be allowed to.
I think there should be a greater grip on who owns what in the utilities.
Yeah, and people like you should not be allowed to profiteer from the misery of the poor people.
Well, you think I only do it for profit. In fact, I do it to make sure that I'm a custodian of the utility companies.
Really?
Yes.
Well, Ryan says this: Porky will be supporting the company that charges us to breathe air that some company decides they provide to us.
Sometimes.
And then Peter says fresh water is becoming most valuable commodity worldwide.
All I need is the air
Shut up.
that I breathe.
Nestle,
well, I have spoken.
Hang on, Nestle is quietly buying up all the fresh water sources in the world.
I have spoken to geophysical political experts who have told me...
What was their name?
I'm not telling you. Who have told me that the next raft of wars in civilization will be over the occupation of water. Not oil, not land, but water.
Well, that may well be true. And that's why you bought into the company, I'm sure. Anyway, we've got more important things to talk about because the Times correspondent in Washington is going to tell us how the White House has been reacting to what happened in Westminster yesterday. This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
First at the top, I wanted to note that the President has been briefed on the situation in London. He just spoke to Prime Minister May, and we'll have a readout on that situation and that call soon. We obviously condemn today's attack in Westminster, which the United Kingdom is treating as an act of terrorism. And we applaud the quick response that the British police and their first responders made to the situation. The victims in this are in our thoughts and our prayers. The City of London and Her Majesty's government have the full support of the U.S. government in responding to the attack and bringing those to justice who are responsible.
That's Sean Spicer there, the White House press secretary, who was appointed, of course, by Donald Trump way back at the beginning of his presidency, which is only now, about 50 days old, something like that.
Yeah,
it seems to have created quite a stir, of course. We're going to talk now to Bor Deng from The Times, who's based over in Washington. We spoke to Bor the night of the election victory that Trump managed to sort of organise. Let's find out how and whether he has been capitalising on this incident from Westminster yesterday. Bor, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me again. And
well, thank you.
You guys are all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, London has been sort of slightly taken aback by the events of yesterday, but you know, it's as a city, you'll know it well, Bor. It's not a city that kind of goes into its shell, and Parliament's going to have be sitting again tomorrow and later on today, in fact, and you know, everybody is talking about a terrible thing that happened, and our thoughts go out to the people who have been hurt. But you know, the policy remains the same.
Yeah, indeed. I was just there a week ago, and certainly at the Times office today, when we sort of saw the news, everyone kept about their business. But certainly a really quite a shocking thing to have happened.
And how much did Sean? I mean, I saw Sean Spicer's original press conference that we just heard there. I mean, for Trump, this is something, and I don't want to over politicize it, but this is something that would be right up his street, as it were, isn't it?
Well, yeah. In fact, he's just tweeted about speaking to Prime Minister May today, saying that he had called her to offer his condolences, and says he's in a very typical Trump-esque fashion on Twitter. She is so strong and doing very well. So I mean, it's a good thing that the two have spoken. And Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, also met with the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, who was here in Washington today for a summit on combating ISIS, and the two had some bilateral discussions and talked about it as well. So yeah, I mean, even though it was certainly a busy day domestically here in Washington with a lot of stuff going on, it's just such a shocking event, and such a sort of resonant event for folks here, given the relationship between the two countries. You know, everyone from Trump to Tillerson to you know, the folks on CNN certainly gave it a lot of attention and a lot of coverage.
Sure. Bor, can you tell me this, please? There have been two other very notable events, similar sort of attacks in Belgium. And in, three. Belgium, in Berlin in Germany, and in Nice in the south of France. Is Europe regarded by Americans, where you are in Washington, D.C., as a dangerous place to go? And will that affect the traditional American, we're going to do Europe type mentality?
I think in Washington, D.C., because it's such an international city, there's not so much the sense of that, you know, we ought to avoid Europe because it's simply unavoidable. But certainly, I think if you sort of look at the statistics on travel, there do tend to be. It does tend to affect Americans' decision in sort of the immediate aftermath of such attacks. But, you know, places like London and Paris and Berlin, sort of the major cities in Europe, are still always going to be destinations that people travel to and go to. And the effect, I don't think, is, I mean, certainly, I hope I'm not wrong about this, but from everything I've read,
but it takes me on to another point, which you may also reflect on, and that is that isn't terrorism now an accepted part of everyday life in almost any part of the world? You can't tell where it's going to happen. It is happening. I mean, the stock markets hardly flinched when this attack happened today, because I think it's now factored into life in the modern world.
I do think that's more of a sense in Europe than it is in America, though, I have to say, given the close proximity of major cities and the closer proximity to parts of the world that aren't so stable at the moment. And in fact, Donald Trump Jr., President Trump's son, received quite a lot of criticism today because he sort of tweeted critiques at Sadiq Khan for saying that terrorism is something that happens in major cities and has become a part of life that, you know, we're resilient to.
Yes. And, But he quoted an old speech, didn't he?
Yeah, indeed, and sort of But there is something to the idea that in Europe, I think there's sort of a more more of the sense that this is something that happens and we're resilient to it, and life goes on. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think in parts of, in places like Idaho or places in America that don't really have the sort of population centers where attacks are common, that kind of sentiment might not be
well, you say that, but
normal.
One of the biggest terrorist attacks on American soil was in Oklahoma City, which you'd have to say was in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Boondock City, wasn't it?
Yeah, but Oklahoma City is still, for Oklahoma, it's a city. Even though it's quite small.
Yeah, but it's not exactly cosmopolitan. But let me ask you this, Paul, because surely one of the other things that this feeds into is this kind of ban, which is not now so much a travel ban as a ban on laptops and iPads and all sorts of things that the Trump administration has ordered, which gets underway this weekend. The Brits are doing it as well, but it's only really for people travelling from east to west, rather than from west to east. And it seems a bit odd to a lot of people that, if your laptop is dangerous, you can't bring it on the plane, but you can put it in the hold.
I think the one of the reasons that the ban had been put into place was because there seemed to be some intelligence suggesting that there are new ways to hide explosives or potentially dangerous devices within the batteries of laptops and electronic devices. That was something that apparently was discovered, had been a group that's affiliated with Al Qaeda had been working on, and that seems to have been sort of the reason for the ban, which I suppose makes a little bit of sense. But certainly, it's not sort of, there's not a great deal of information about exactly what this covers and why now, and sort of the exact intelligence that led to this. Mm-hmm. But my understanding is that's where that comes from, and the reason why it's sort of being banned on flight.
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying, I suppose, is does this particular attack then feed into that narrative in the sense that people might say, well, if you're coming from Britain now and you've got a laptop, then you're going to not be able to bring that on the plane either. Is there a chance that could happen?
That just seems quite unlikely, given the importance of the UK-US relationship. I mean, you might remember that when Trump issued his travel ban, the first version of it on the people coming from the 7 majority Muslim countries from the Middle East, there was a carve-out that had to be made for dual citizens of those countries in Britain. And given the importance of the relationship, and given the sort of diplomatic furor that I'm sure would erupt if something like that happened, I do think that might be sort of, it strikes me as rather, something that seems less likely.
Okay.
Indeed.
Well, you never know what's going to happen in the old Trump administration, but keep your eyes open. Paul, thank you very much indeed. Paul Deng there, reporting in to us from Washington, D.C. By the way, Eric has sent in a great tweet in which he says, Porky says no one has ever found the source of the Thames. Yeah. And he's now put a picture up which has a big stone, which apparently was placed at the source of the River Thames many years ago.
Really?
And sits there.
Oh, yeah?
And the inscription on the stone says, this stone was placed here to mark the source of the River Thames.
Really? Yeah. and where is the water around that stone?
What do you mean, where's the water?
A river has water in it. That stone doesn't look like it's got any water around
it. The source of a river
rubbish
is not a river, is it?
Utter rubbish.
The source of a river is usually the very beginning of a tributary of some kind.
It's an underground spring.
It might be an underground spring.
Yeah,
well, in that case, you wouldn't see it.
In that case, drill a hole next to that bit of rock that they put up there. I don't know why you get so upset about. Bit of worthless, useless rock, and show me a bit of Thames water, and I will agree with you. Otherwise, I'd say it's a false.
It's not false.
It's a false bit of rock placed there for tourist purposes, and it's a complete sham. So don't be sending me false pictures of.
It's a real rock
of nonsensical landmarks which don't exist.
Maybe there'll be some people who've actually visited the source of the river.
Yeah, well, I hope they have, and then tell me about how much water they found there. Okay.
Well, the source of
a river's got to have water. There's no water in that picture.
Hardly any, though. But you wouldn't have much water at the source of the river, would you?
What?
You wouldn't have much water at the source.
You'd have
of
the
river, 'cause
start
that's
of
where it
water.
begins.
You'd have a trickle of water because that's where a river begins. Okay.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people complain that you've blocked them as well. By the way, I don't know what you can do about that.
I don't block anybody unless they use offensive language.
Yeah. Well, I will say that to them. I said, if
Yeah.
Porky's blocked you, there must be a reason.
Exactly.
I'm always getting tweets from people saying, "Can you please ask Porky to unblock me?"
I
And
only
always
block
say-
people if they put offensive language in a message to me.
Yeah. One guy said
Simple as that.
He was blocked by you because he asked you whether Ross Barkley was going to Spurs. And you blocked
Utter
him.
rubbish. Utter rubbish. I've never responded to those sort of tweets in anything except,
Really?
you know...
Are you sure?
I swear to you, in anything except I'll believe it when I see it type mode. But I don't block people if they ask a sensible question.
Okay, there
Never.
you go. Well, there's your explanation. All
Yes.
you people have been blocked out there. This
Yes.
is TalkSport. This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mites. There will, of course, be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. There will also be tomorrow on the show a quiz about the Masters, which is the first major of the golf season,
Indeed.
which gets underway in a couple of weeks' time. I've got some very good news for you, by the way.
What's that?
And that is that
You've
you might
got some
remember...
good news for me.
I have.
Well, it's about time.
Well, what do you mean it's about time?
Well, I get nothing except bad news from you lately. So
Bad
go on,
news?
yeah.
Well, is that what you think?
Yeah.
What, you think I give you bad news only?
You give me bad vibes, you give me
Absolute
bad
rubbish.
news, you give me, you know, like
if it wasn't for me,
bad
right,
time.
If it wasn't for me,
Yeah.
you would have no reason to be happy at all.
Rubbish.
You'd be miserable, sitting in your own sort of juices, stewing
Because of your
away.
presence. I tell you what, mate, it's because of your presence, I do feel miserable at times. If I was allowed to live my life on my own and just, you know, be in total control of my own resources and my own natural talents, I'd be a happier man. Anyway.
Yeah, but then you would hate that, though, really.
To have to shackle them to you all the
that.
time.
But you would hate that.
Is, you know, it's something that, you know, I regard as onerous and a burden. So what's the good news?
But you have already made it very clear that you actually don't feel comfortable being happy. You prefer to be miserable, don't you?
What is this good news?
The good news is that you might remember a man by the name of Johnny Langton. Which is, in fact, not only his real name, but also his Twitter name.
Johnny Langton?
Johnny Langton.
Yeah.
He sent us, through the Postman Pork methodology, a beautiful a paste which came from South Korea.
Oh, okay. I remember. It came all the way from South Korea.
All the way from South Korea.
In a box
he had
marked from South Korea.
Yeah,
That's right.
He had a recipe for me, which was something called Dak Bok Im Tang.
Yes.
Right? Which was a chicken dish that's made in South Korea. And he said the only thing you won't be able to buy in Britain is this paste, right?
Right.
So guess what? Yesterday I decided I'd have a go at making it.
Right.
And it was a great success.
Right.
It's fantastic. I tweeted it out earlier. I don't know whether you would have seen it because I know that you pay very little attention.
What sort of meat did you put in this curry?
Well, it's a chicken. It's a chicken dish, right?
Right, chicken.
This is the paste itself, right?
Right. Okay,
so that's how it looks, and it was beautiful, right? And you mixed it up with a lot of garlic, a lot of soy sauce.
Can I see the finished product?
And the finished product is this with rice, which looked tremendous. I gave it to my daughter for dinner, and she said it was one of the best things she'd ever eaten.
That does look very tasty. Yeah,
it was really good.
What's the green stuff? Are they?
That's spring onions, just a little garnish on top,
very
some
nice,
sesame, some sesame seeds as well.
Okay.
It was really good.
Okay.
Really good. So thank you very much to Joseph,
Yeah.
who, as I say, lives in rural South Korea.
Does he? Yeah.
And has introduced me to a whole new form of cooking.
Right.
My
So,
my now mission is to try and go to Chinatown and see if I can buy this stuff.
I see. So let me get this right. You've had a very nice evening this evening. Emma, your daughter, came round. You cooked
did.
this fantastic meal with this new paste that's been sent to you.
I'm tang.
Yeah, from South Korea.
Yes.
So why did you announce this particular conversation and feature as, oh, I've got some great news for you? What's great for me?
Well, I thought you'd
What's great for me?
Well, because it came in as Postman Pork, right? A delivery to Postman Pork.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's always a worry when you get
passed it on to you.
Well, it was destined for me, right?
So why is this great for me? I didn't get a great meal out of it.
Well, because, I'll bring you some if you like.
No, thank you. I'm okay.
I'll save some for you at home.
No, it'll be too hot for me. I don't want it. But
So
why is
that's
it great
spicy.
news for me? I thought you were going to say something like, oh, look, you know, I've devised another method to...
make you even more money.
Yeah, or something like that, you know, or you know, we're getting a free holiday somewhere because somebody likes us or something.
Yeah, no.
That would be great news.
Well,
that would be great news.
Well, the reason it's great news is because...
Free meal, you know, at a top restaurant in London, that'd
hang
be
on.
great news.
Well, no, the reason it's great news is that Johnny is one of our many fans in very many different parts of the world. So he's in South Korea, right?
Yeah.
So now we have got a sort of a situation where we've got a South Korean fan base growing, right?
Well, I
And
think
now-
Johnny
and now
should
that-
send me a couple of vouchers or something for a top
Vouchers?
restaurant because I don't
Vouchers?
like his paste.
What,
yeah.
for Seoul?
No, for this country. It must be a chain of restaurants in this country.
Why would he have vouchers?
Well, you know, like...
He works in rural South Korea.
Yeah, OK, well, in rural South Korea, mate, they've got a lot of business going on there, and there'll be a chain of restaurants somewhere in this country owned by the South Koreans, I'm
Dak
telling
Bok Im Tang.
Dak Bok Im Tang.
It's a very lovely dish, though, I have to say.
He's not same country as Pyongyang. Quite.
It's not. No, but it's quite close to North Korea, obviously.
Obviously. Now I've got some news for you.
Yeah, go on.
You've permanently and always mocked me when I say, that in my opinion, money is the most important thing in the world.
Well, you've said that the only thing you fear in the world is poverty.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay. So would you then accept that when I produce a detailed and scientific report from one of my social affairs journals...
Social affairs?
Yeah, which says it's not the sex or about whether the man in the relationship will mow the lawn but never vacuum the house. It's not even to do with the relationship with the mother-in-law.
Uh-huh.
The secret of a lasting relationship is to have a similar attitude to money, right?
Money?
Whether a couple are spenders or savers, reckless or risk-averse is not the point. What matters is that they are on the same page in the ledger of life. Otherwise, the argument starts.
As long as they're both the same.
It is money that drives couples apart.
Well, I mean, I'm sure
it is the most important factor in a marriage.
There is some truth to that.
Yeah.
However, I would argue that there are some other things that drive couples apart as well.
Yeah. Well, let me just continue. Money worries were the reason most commonly cited by couples for strains on relationships. It was not financial pressures themselves that led to tension, but the issue of trust, candour, values, and how the money should be spent.
Well, I mean, I tell you what, one of the most difficult situations is when you have to have the conversation about the joint bank account.
Yes,
and
right.
I'm sure that I've said to you in the past, one of the reasons I think that you have not ever been with somebody over a long period of time is because you don't want to expose yourself to the possibility of being ripped off.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about Colin Montgomery the other day, right?
That's right.
He's now being sued
£5 million
by his ex.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get money back off her. She's trying to get money back off him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nightmare scenario, but they're both loaded.
Yeah, they
Imagine if you had got married to some woman and for whatever reason she saw you as a bit of a meal ticket.
Yes.
And she then sort of hoisted half of your all your worldly goods away from you.
It happens on a regular basis. These stupid pot-bellied, balding men, aged about sort of,
60.
52. No, 52, 53, something like that. Suddenly get I get them all the time. I get these emails all the time saying...
what sort of emails?
It says, Mike Parry, ring this number now and speak to a beautiful Russian lady who wants to hear from you. Of course not.
Are you wondering why your emails are never working? Just because you're getting hacked.
Yeah.
You're getting hacked.
So I delete them immediately. I think even if you open them, there'll be a virus in
you
them
must
or
be
something
very
like
careful.
that. Yeah, so you just delete them immediately, Some of these guys do. They end up going over to Russia.
Yeah.
They marry some woman who clearly could be...
Svetlana.
Yeah, that's right, could be Miss World, and sees, as soon as he walks in, they see...
Hard-faced Polish woman.
Yeah, hard-faced Polish woman sees pot-bellied, bald Englishman walk into the restaurant where they've agreed to meet,
wallet.
and she suddenly sees, Bank of England arrived.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
She then agrees to marry him for 2 weeks. They go back to England, and then she decides, I'm homesick, I want a divorce,
right.
and then takes everything.
Well, wasn't there a terrible story about one who was actually quite violent? And killing she killed the guy.
I think she did kill him, and lots of them threatened to kill. Anyway, let me go on. It says here that the issue of money far suppresses challenges to a relationship, which include bringing up the children, excess alcohol consumption on either of the partners, or even the fallout from extramarital affairs.
Well, I mean, certainly some couples...
it's unbelievable.
Some couples have survived extramarital affairs, but as you quite rightly say, if they have problems with money, particularly if one of them decides to develop a separate bank account when they're meant to have a joint one, that can be very tricky indeed. Joint bank accounts, I would say, are to be avoided at all costs.
Yes.
You're listening to what I'm saying?
I am listening. I took all that in, costs and all that. Arabella Russell.
No, I said joint bank accounts are to be avoided.
Yes, I totally agree. Well, I'm about to endorse...
You've never had one, have you?
Me?
Well, you've never had a joint bank account.
Have I had a joint
you never. Why are you even thinking about it?
Because I might have had a joint bank account in one of the businesses I've got with somebody else.
I'm talking about with a woman.
Oh, I see. No. Now then, Arabella Russell, a counsellor with Relate. That's like it used to be called Marriage Guidance, didn't it?
It did, yes.
Yeah. She said...
Marriage Guidance Council.
Yes, that's right. The key is to be completely open and honest with each other about your values, feelings, and
that's the first problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your values, feelings, but most particularly your spending habits. Make sure you're both clear on how you plan to share your financial benefits, pay the bills and manage your spending. What she really means is that, you would go and spend it all on champagne in bars, risque bars, trying to attract other women, whilst, your partner would be at home scrimping and saving to put food on the table.
And saying, what have you done with the money?
That's right, yeah.
It's a very tricky area.
I'm sure
the only answer is to make so much money that actually there's always enough to go around.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree.
But I have not got a joint bank account now. And I would never have another one.
My view on inflation is, because I'm terrified now that inflation's going to run out of control. Terrified.
Why?
It's 2.3%.
What, you mean it's going to knock you sideways with all the mortgages you've got?
Well, no, mortgages are not a problem. They're under control. But, I just don't want the economy to start going downhill. And my view is that I must now earn at least 2.3% more next year than I did this year, so that I don't suffer.
Is this why you're entering into all these kind of business arrangements?
Well, so I don't suffer.
Various northern powerhouse.
So I don't
companies.
suffer financially, and poverty looms closer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Dom says this: I've literally not been blocked by Porky.
Yeah.
Woo, woo, woo.
There you go.
This is Talk Sport.
Absolutely.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. As I said, coming up from 4 a.m, a special full set breakfast with Paul Ross, looking back on the events at Westminster yesterday, and of course looking ahead to all the political ramifications and the fallout going on throughout the course of the rest of the week. And tomorrow, Porky quiz time on the Masters.
On the Masters, that's right. Yeah.
Augusta, Georgia.
Yeah. Okay.
Quite a few people have been tweeting in about your Russian bride's problem,
right?
Saying that there's a reason why you get those kind of emails, which I can't explain to you because it's a family show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, can't you put it into family language?
Well, not really. It says the only reason you get those kinds of emails is because of some of the surfing that you may have been doing.
No, I can assure you,
really?
I don't.
Okay.
My biggest fear is somebody knocking on the door and saying, "Have you been accessing?"
Hey, do you know what?
Nefarious.
Well, why is somebody going to knock on your door?
Material, because they do. If you do that sort of thing, I have no desire to look at vile information anywhere on my laptop or computer. I never have, and I never will.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
Now, I had a knock on the door the other day,
and
I'm always very suspicious of that. You know, because I don't invite people to come round. I don't give out my address.
Yeah.
So I'm in the house, right? Yeah. It's about 2:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
Knock on the door.
Yeah.
And I think I was about to go for a nap.
Okay.
Because I know you don't do that, but during the day I like to have a little nap.
Yes, okay.
So I just ignored the first one.
Yeah.
And then, a couple of minutes passed, there's another louder knock, really loud. So I go to the door without wishing to open it.
Yeah.
And I speak through it, and I said, yeah, hi. Yeah, what do you want? He said, I'm doing a survey for the BBC.
Right.
And I said, what?
Yeah.
I beg your pardon? He said, I'm doing a survey for the BBC.
How did he get in the building in the first place?
I said, no, thank you, go away.
Yeah.
And he went, all right then. And he went away.
He went away.
But I mean, what is going on?
I don't know.
My thought was that he might be some kind of con man.
Yeah.
Once you open the door,
he
either forces his way
right.
in.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Or, what
was the survey on? Did you find out?
Well, he just said he was from the BBC.
Oh, God.
I mean, at what point do the BBC send people out to private residences to ask them questions?
I've no idea. That is very suspicious. But I've got a worse one than that. I forgot to tell you about.
Go on.
So I've told you about the spring going in my good chair.
Oh, yeah. Have you not had that fixed yet?
Well, it's very difficult to get somebody to come out.
I thought you were going to get an upholsterer.
Yeah, well, I am. But do you know why it's so difficult?
Why?
Apparently, upholstery is such a complicated craft.
Right.
That you have to study for about 7 years before you get a diploma.
Well, so it's either dentistry or doctor or upholstery.
Upholstery, yeah. The reason they won't come out, I've discovered now, is because they have like hundreds of different tools in upholstery, and they can't possibly carry them all around at the same time.
That can't be true.
No, the guy said when I first, I'm not joking. When I first contacted, I went into a shop, it was an upholsterer's shop, and I said, "Oh, hello, mate." I said,
"Hello there."
Yeah, I said, "Have you got a van that you travel around in to come and repair my chair?" So the guy says, "Maybe."
What?
He said, they're very uncooperative. He said, "Maybe."
Did he look like he was particularly busy, this guy?
No, because he had a shop full of half-built, half-baked chairs, which had been repaired. So I said, "I need my chair fixing. Can you come and do it?"
Yeah.
And he said, "What?" I said, "Can you come and do it in my house?"
Bring it into him.
Hey?
Do you have to bring the chair in?
Well, it gets worse. I said, "Can you come to my house and fix my chair?" I said, "One of the straps seems to have gone in the seat." He says, "It's a spring." I said, "Well, I don't know. I can't see through the seat, can I? You're an upholsterer."
You could do it before the autumn, actually.
Yeah. So he said, "Okay." He said, I can't make a house visit. I said, why not? He said, I won't know what tools to bring, you see. So I said...
So he's like a doctor then?
Yeah, so I said, so what do you suggest? He said, well, you'll have to put it in your car and bring it here. I said, I've only got a 2-door car, mate.
Yeah.
I said, it's a fastback, it's a Burke, it hasn't got a big boot.
Was he impressed by that?
Well, I don't know, but I said, how do you expect me to put it in a car? I said, you know, what kind of service do you run here? He said, all right. He said, take some pictures of it and send the pictures of the chair to me.
Right.
I said, what do you want the pictures of the chair for? He said, well, then I'll decide whether I can make a house visit with the tools that I'll
there can't
require.
be that many tools to fix a chair.
Hang on, you won't believe this. So I sent him a picture.
I mean, how many? Like 1,000 are we talking about?
I sent him a picture.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I got no reaction. These people are not very communicative.
No.
So I ring him up and I say, did you get my picture yesterday?
Mind you, probably only gave him like 5 minutes to get back to you, right?
No,
So
no,
then
I
you
didn't.
rang him straight
No. I
away.
left it till the following day. I
Yeah.
said, did you get my picture? He said, I only got one. I said, well, you only asked for one picture. He said, no. You should have turned the chair upside down and taken a picture of the underneath of the chair for me.
Okay.
I said, all right, I'll do that. So I did
chair
that.
porn.
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm getting there with this guy, and I think this guy's a dead loss. So I then ring up another guy.
Oh, another upholsterer.
Yeah, another upholsterer.
Well, there are two of them in your neighbourhood.
Well, there's a few. I found them on the website. So I said, hello, Alf. He said, yeah. I said, look, could you come and fix my chair? I said, something's gone, a strap or a spring or something.
Some pictures.
And he said, what sort of a chair is it? You know, so I told him about a chair.
And I mean, what sort of a chair is it? Because
Well,
I mean, it's one thing.
it's a high backed, you know,
yeah, but I mean, telling me
Edwardian chair.
is one thing, but telling an upholsterer, you have to be a bit more specific.
Yeah, well, he seemed to know. So I said, look, he said, well, you know, don't know what tools for it. I said, look, just make a site visit. I said, I'm not even going to hold you to to having to repair it, right? You don't even have to repair it. Just come and look at it.
It's no wonder you never get anything done.
Yeah, exactly. I said, just come and look at it. I said, and then go away, get the right tools, and then come back a second time and repair it.
I mean, how far away is this place from your gaff?
What? Where his office?
Yeah.
Was? About 5 miles.
So you can go there in 10 minutes, have a look, come back.
Exactly.
It's not like he's going halfway around the country.
I said, I'll pay you for 2 visits.
Yeah.
Okay? He says, well,
Got
all
a lot
right.
on at the moment.
So he's due to come at...
I mean, how many chairs can these people be fixing?
Hang on. So he's due to come at 10 o'clock this morning.
Right.
So...
Did he come, did he?
Well, here, this is what's happening. So then I'm getting involved in all sorts of other businesses that we're involved in, you know, having a few
that's your own
problems with
fault,
and all
to be
that kind
honest.
of stuff, right? And then I noticed it was 10:15.
Right.
So I ring the guy.
And what's the name of this guy?
Alf. So he picks up the phone, he says, hello. I said, is that the upholsterer? Yes. I said, is that you, Alf? Yes. So I said...
Where are you?
Yeah, I said, it's Mike Parry here. He said, right. I said, you're supposed to be here at 10 o'clock to look at my chair. He says, oh, yes. I said, so what happened? He said, my dog died. I said, what? He said, my dog died last night. I said, well, look, I'm very, very sorry about your dog, Alf, but why didn't you let me know? He said, oh, I forgot about you, and, you know...
He's quite upset, the guy, was he?
He was quite upset, yes. I gave him a hard
Dear
time, told him to
God.
push off and never knock my door again.
So he's never going to come now,
No,
is he?
no. So that's 2 upholsterers now,
Well,
which, you know...
But this is a general malaise of people who come to fix things in your house. I mean, I had this problem with a plumber where I had to get a new boiler, and he said, yeah, I might be able to do it next week. I went, okay.
Yeah.
I said, well, do you want me to ring you next week? Yeah, we was to ring next week.
Yeah.
And so I rang him about 3 times, and he kept going to the answering machine.
Yeah.
And finally, one morning, he just turned up.
Yeah.
He didn't ring to say he was coming.
Yeah.
He just turned up. And I went, well, I've got to go out.
Yeah.
He said, don't worry, I've only come to see what sort of boiler you should be getting.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, that's fine. So he had a look at it. He said, I can't do it today. I said, well, I wasn't expecting you to do it today because you never rang me to say you were coming.
No.
I said, when can you do it? He said, I can do it next week.
Yeah. Well, the other
And
one...
I went, well, and I mean, in the end, it took about 3 weeks before he actually came back and did anything.
It's unbelievable. The other one is, I ring a company, right, which are called, and I won't give you the name of the actual...
We had a great one here from
What's that?
Ernie.
What?
He says, tell that Blake Porky that he's talking rubbish about upholstery. I'm one, and I can fix a chair in about 2 hours.
Well, these guys say they can't.
So give him
They
his
can't.
number.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Ernie,
yeah.
the upholsterer.
Yeah. So I ring this company, and it's called Something Boilers, but I'm not going to tell you the
Something
name of
Boilers?
Yeah, not the name of the town, because that would
Well, do they
identify the
fix
company.
chairs?
No, they fix boilers, actually.
Do they really?
Yeah.
So what are you ringing them for?
I use them all, well, because I use them all the time to
How many
service...
boilers have you got?
Well, they service the boilers in apartments that I own because
Oh,
you
I
get it
see.
serviced every autumn. You see what I mean?
see,
Every
yeah.
October, you
Right.
get serviced for the winter.
The winter of my discontent.
So I do a lot of business with these people. So I ring them up,
Right.
and I said, "This is amazing." When you think that they deal with radiators, boilers, all this kind of stuff. So I ring them up and I said, "Oh, hello." I said, "It's my Parry here," because they know me, you know. And I said,
I'm
"Oh,
surprised.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they take your call if they know you.
Yeah, I said, "Oh yeah, hello, mate. How are you?" I said, "I'm fine." Now look, I said, "My waste
look here.
disposal." I said, "My waste disposal." Well,
This is why you spent so
hang on,
long
hang
trying
on.
to fix all this up.
hang on, I said, "My
Your
waste
waste disposal problem.
my waste disposal is making a funny noise,
Yeah.
and I want somebody to come and replace it."
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, it might not need replacing."
Yeah, exactly.
I
Why
said,
was
"I
it
don't care.
replaced?"
Replace it." I said, "It's making a funny noise, and
Yeah.
I don't want many more funny noises. So can you come?" So they said, "Well, you know, do you know the code number of it or whatever?" I said, "How would I know?" I said, "I'm not an expert in waste disposal units." And they said, "Well, there's lots of waste." So anyway, I said,
I got
"Look."
this from the boiler guy. He said, "Can you take a
Yeah,
picture of the
yeah.
serial number?"
Exactly.
I'm like, I don't know what the serial number is.
Then, and I said, "Look, can you just send somebody round?" I said, "They'll know." And they said, "OK, I'll tell you what I'll do. Yeah, this is from a company that deals in boilers
the time, by the
and
way.
radiators and all that."
Yeah.
And she said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll try and find a plumber for you." I said, "But you're a firm of plumbers,
What
aren't
about
you?"
Alf?
Yeah, exactly. Unbelievable.
Dear God.
Unbelievable. You
Well,
can't get the service these days.
I know. It's absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking. Anyway, Ernie will fix your chair for you in a couple of hours, so I'll put you in touch.
Okay.
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
As your TV reviewer, I can reveal
Yeah.
there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's the problem?
It's been quite a busy show. We've had a lot to talk about, but we managed to
Yep.
squeeze in an episode of Porky Vision,
Yes.
which, of course, is the best TV review this side
Indeed.
of the Great Wall of China.
Indeed.
We've had lots of very interesting drama actually going on recently.
yes.
A couple of things still ongoing. So what have you got
Yes.
for us this week?
Well, Broadchurch, you see, this
Yes.
is the one everybody's looking at the
Yeah.
moment. I mean, it is absolutely terrific, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But it turns out that there's a
Is
lot
it
of...
as good as the last series, you think?
Yeah, well, the first series was excellent because, of course, it kept everyone on the
Yeah.
edge. But it ended with a whimper rather than a scream, if you remember. Okay, and then the second series didn't live up to billing, but then the third series, which is the one we're watching now,
Yeah.
is very, very good indeed.
Yeah.
Now the point is, it's full of twists and turns. Okay.
Yes.
And the latest twist is that the woman, Julie Hesmondula, you know, who is the
Hesmondula, yeah.
victim of the rape attack.
Yes.
And, you know, obviously she's found staggering around, you know, terribly shocked from her horrible ordeal.
Yeah.
She's now slowly getting her life back together and revealing a bit more about herself,
Mm.
including the fact that on the evening on which she was attacked,
Yeah.
only that very morning, she'd had consensual sex with another man
Yeah.
in her own bed at home before going to the party and getting raped,
Yeah.
you know, by some brutal, aggressive attacker.
Right.
So this...
Not that that should make any difference to the crime at hand.
Well,
obviously.
of course it doesn't make any difference to the crime at hand. I'm not saying that. What it does do, though, is it then complicates the police inquiry because forensic evidence, of course, which is based on DNA samples and all that kind of stuff, is now completely mixed up.
Yeah.
So they've lifted a guy whose DNA matches, and they've got him in the cell. And he says, "No, of course I didn't attack and rape Julie Hesmondula. She's my wife's best friend."
Uh-huh.
And they said, "Well, why's your DNA all over the place?" He said, "Well, actually, I don't like to tell you this or my wife. I had sex with her on the morning of the attack. Consensual.
I haven't seen this
in
episode
her house."
yet.
Ah, well, there you go, you see.
So I don't want you to tell me anymore.
Right, okay. So there's all that going on.
Yeah.
Lots of Rogerisation.
Yeah.
And then they have a flashback, you know, of this woman at the party.
Yeah.
And she's a flighty individual.
But
Not
also
that
has-
has any
and
bearing on
no,
the appalling
in
crime
the-
that was committed against her.
Her ex-husband confesses at the end of the second episode, I think,
Yeah.
that he can't remember anything that happened because he blacks out.
Yes, that could be true.
Right.
That could be true.
Which has cast aspersions on his story.
That's right. Now, at the same time, they then find a convicted sort of sex molester type guy's moved into the area. and they go round and see him,
Right.
and he's a right piece of work.
I
You know,
suppose he would be.
He admits that he accidentally sort of had sex with a girl who was underage, but he didn't know she was underage and all this kind of stuff. You know,
very sordid stuff. Isn't it?
yeah, you know. But anyway, the point is, what they're doing is in each episode. There's now been 4 episodes, and I think there's 8 altogether.
All right, okay.
They're lining up, you know, a suspect in each episode. So
I
at
think
the
I've
end,
seen 3 in that case.
Yeah, no, you've seen 3, okay. And in the end, well, I think if you've seen 3, you must know that she's confessed to having sex on the Saturday morning before they attacked that night.
But without knowing who it was, though.
Oh, I see.
So now I know who it was.
Well, it was the husband of her best friend.
Well, I don't want you to tell me that.
And also, if you think about it, the party she was at was thrown by her best friend and her husband.
I see.
So it was their party.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Right.
So
it's all a bit incestuous, really, isn't it?
Incestuous. So, you know, and then you kind of think to yourself, well, hang on, what's going on here? Now the biggest twist in this really gripping sort of plot, in my view, because there are so many potential suspects who might have committed this crime for various reasons, is that a woman in a call centre sees the local newspaper and an account of, you know, the developing investigation into this attack.
Yeah.
This woman then walks into the police station to see Olivia Coleman and David Tennant, who are inspector and sergeant in the police investigation, and says, I read this with horror. And they said, why? 2 years ago, I was raped in exactly the same fashion. So there is a serial rapist on the loose in Broadchurch.
Okay.
Okay, now at the same time...
And also shutting down the paper, aren't they?
They're shutting down the paper. I mean, tell you what, that's a story you and I have come across many times. An old colleague of mine, who was my boss at the Birmingham Evening Mail, never quite broke into Fleet Street, but went on to manage a weekly newspaper in the sort of Stroud area of Gloucestershire, you know.
Yeah.
Or it might have been the Gloucester Citizen or something like that.
Okay.
And anyway, you know, he was king of the pile and all that, editor-in-chief of a group of 4 or 5 papers.
Yeah.
And then they said, oh, by the way, we're closing all the papers down and put them into one tower block somewhere in Bristol or something like that.
So that's
you can still be editor-in-chief.
But you have to move to Bristol.
Yeah, exactly, and all this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And or if it wasn't Bristol, it was somewhere else, you know, but it was something like that, you know. So anyway, so getting back to it, so also there's a taxi driver knocking around who was a Cambridge University student when he met his girlfriend and they had a child together.
Right.
So he left and became a taxi driver. And
well, is this in Broadchurch?
In Broadchurch.
Okay, not in Gloucester.
Not in Gloucester, but he is a rampant Rogeriser.
Is he?
And his wife knows. And one of the reasons why he drives a taxi is it gives him access to, you know, available women.
I see.
You know, who he knows are available because he's sort of taking them around in taxis. And, of course, on the night of the attack, he will have run 1 or 2 people to the party.
Yes,
you see what I mean?
because there's not many taxis in the town.
So that's all unfolding.
Okay.
Now, while this is going on in Broadchurch, I'm watching SSGB.
I thought that wasn't very good. I thought you didn't like that.
Well, it's got twists and turns, and it's coming to...
I saw the first one. I didn't fancy it much.
Well, what happened was the first 2 were very complicated. It was all about some guy getting murdered in Shepherd's Market, in a flat above Shepherd's Market, and him being related in some way to the research in producing the first atomic bomb. You know, before America produced theirs. You see what I mean? So this is why the...
It's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
Well, the problem is that the top cop...
Isn't this all meant to be after the war, by the way?
No, it's during the war.
I thought the whole thing was that it was based on the fact that Germany had won the war.
No.
This is what Britain would have been like.
No, they'd won the Battle of Britain, so it's 42-43. You see what I mean?
Well, if they won the Battle of Britain, they won the war, haven't they?
No, because, you know...
Well, who are they fighting, then?
The Russians. Because, of course, the war in the East was still raging on.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So what happens is the first 2 episodes seem to be about this guy, you know, with his ability to build an atomic bomb, and everybody's very interested in that, you know.
Well, I suppose he would be.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's got to clamp down on the resistance because, you know, they're causing the Nazis a few problems and all this kind of stuff. But now it's all about... letting the king go. The king is in, like, on the house arrest.
Right.
Right. So the king during the war, who was that? King George VI.
King George VI, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it? Or King Edward VIII?
Or the 5th, maybe.
Or the 5th, yeah. Something like that, yeah. So anyway...
No, Edward VIII was abdicated, wasn't
he? Yeah, he abdicated after the war, didn't he?
No, before.
Before the war, that's right. Yeah, no, 36. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, Edward and Simpson.
Wallace Simpson.
Wallace Simpson and Edward, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he wasn't in charge during the war. I'm pretty sure it was George V.
George V, yeah. George V, that's right. Yeah, so anyway, then he said... so now he's got involved in this internal plot where the Wehrmacht, okay?
The Wehrmacht,
which is the German army.
That's right.
Okay?
The Wehrmacht, you mean?
The Wehrmacht, they have the king in custody. And the SS...
Is that a small town in France?
No. The SS, who are... like pretty nasty bunch.
They're not nice. Waffen-SS.
They want to discredit the Wehrmacht and become the most dominant sort of military force in the...
Shouldn't they be in Russia sorting that out?
Well, I think their mates are,
Yeah,
you know.
right.
I think they want to be the most dominant, like, sort of military presence under Hitler's, you know, empire.
Yes.
So they decide to get the I think he's rather sort of sucking up to the Germans a bit, this copper, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But, by the way, during the course of the episodes I've seen, he's variously been called Inspector, Superintendent and Chief Inspector.
Who's this?
The cop who's the
Okay.
star of SSGB.
He's the British guy, right?
He's the British guy.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
a Scotland Yard detective, you know. So he's now been made aware of a plot by the SS to free the king and send him to Canada.
Canada?
Yeah, so on the basis that the Wehrmacht will then be smashed up by Hitler for letting the king escape.
I see.
But it's the SS who are going to...
It's a cunning plot, isn't
spring
it?
him.
Yeah.
Now, while all this is going on, the chief cop, who is, you know, what you could say, quotes, a pretty boy, right?
Yeah, is he?
Is regularly Rogerising a blonde spy.
Right.
But we don't know who she's spying for.
Okay.
She's
How do
American.
you know she's a spy?
Well, she's already said she's a spy, and she's American, but we don't know if she's, you know, working for the SS,
Right.
or the British,
Or the Wehrmacht.
or the Wehrmacht,
Right.
or
the Russians, maybe.
or the Russians, or Canada.
Or the Canadians.
But he spent a lot of time without any clothes on with her.
Who plays this guy, then?
I don't know his name, and she hasn't got any clothes on, but
Really?
she's very attractive, and there's clearly a lot of physical intimacy,
I see.
even intercourse, I would say, going on.
Right.
And that's a big distraction to the plot about kidnapping the king, okay?
Uh-huh.
You know? So,
I'm very confused now.
yeah, well, I'm not sure how it's all going to end, really,
No.
but I think the next episode's the last episode,
Is it?
so I'll have a look at that, and
Okay.
then I'll keep you up to date on
Great.
whether the plot to lasso the king, or spring the king, so to speak, plot to spring the king worked, and if so, who got shot? Because
Okay.
they shoot quite a lot of people, actually, in
Well,
SSGB.
I think they sort of did that during
Yeah,
the war, didn't
yeah, they did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that it then?
okay.
Good.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
That was Porky Vision.
Yeah, that's right.
Extraordinary
Seems to be a
stuff.
lot of Rogerisation going on in Coronation Street, by
Yeah.
the way. An awful lot. You know,
Right.
people all over the place rolling around with each other.
Really?
Yeah, very
Shocking.
Very immoral.
Yeah, it is immoral. It's a shocking show. Coming up next, Paul Ross is going to tell us what's coming up on the Full Set Breakfast.
Good.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Pages and pages this morning of coverage of the events of yesterday
Yeah.
over at Westminster. Westminster Bridge still closed. I imagine lots and lots of areas over there still cordoned off. Paul Ross is here. Paul, you're doing a special early morning full set breakfast from 4 o'clock.
We certainly are, Mike and Mike. Good morning. I drove past Westminster Bridge, as I do every morning. As you might expect, a very eerie feeling around, very calm around there, thankfully. Now, the bridge is still shut. We are crossing live to America. We're crossing to Europe. We are talking to experts in this country and elsewhere about the ramifications of what happened yesterday and also the repercussions in the future. So if people want to talk to somebody this morning, it's one of those mornings when you might just want to hear another voice or get your views across. This is the place for you. 0344 499 1000. Talk Radio. We're on with the breakfast show from 4 till at least 10, and we'd love your company this morning on this very difficult morning.
Sure. Thank you very much
Thanks
indeed.
very much indeed,
Paul
Paul.
Ross coming up in about just over 10 minutes' time.
Yeah.
Maybe 15 minutes' time. We'll be back, of course, tonight from 1 with a whole bunch of stuff we'll be picking up on the events of the day as well, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Because you can imagine there'll be quite a few
absolutely.
things being said in the Houses of Parliament.
Absolutely.
And there'll be a few developments as well, I dare say,
There-
over the
there-
course
there
of
are bound to be.
the next 12 hours or so.
Listen, to what extent do you use your sat-nav in your car?
Not as much as I probably should, but I do occasionally use it.
I use it as a last resort.
Yes, I would say so.
I
mean,
still prefer map. You know, before I get in, before I embark on my journey, I look at my map and I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
I prefer to sometimes look at, signposts and all that, because if you rely on your sat-nav, which some people do, just to go to the shops,
yes,
you get sat-nav brain, and it literally...
I agree with that, yeah.
It literally takes away some of your common sense factors in your head.
Well, I mean, there's no doubt that when I drive around London, you can see that there are certain, and I'm not going to use the name, but there are certain cab drivers who drive through London using sat-nav, because you can tell how slowly they're driving.
That's right.
You can tell they're looking at it on their phone or whatever it is, and you can tell by the way they suddenly want to turn left.
Yes.
When they're in the right-hand lane.
Yes.
They don't know where they're going. I'm like you. I'd rather know roughly where I'm going.
Yeah.
And the only reason I really use it is if I have to go to an address which is so specific.
Yeah, that's right.
That I have to go to a particular end of a particular road, you know?
Well, a new report says that they have identified a new brain situation. It's called switch off, and it occurs when you're using sat-nav, because you then dispel all the common sense in your head into another part of your brain, and that's why...
You just assume that that's going to get you there.
Yeah, and that's why, because I've often thought, how stupid can a lorry driver be to go down a lane that's so narrow that he gets the vehicle trapped between two brick walls? Can't he see it's too narrow?
You hear stories all the time, don't you?
Can't some idiot who's driven into a river because the sat-nav has told him to drive into the river know that actually, if you drive a car into a river, you're not on the wrong road and you're going to damage your car?
Yeah.
Apparently, it's called switch off,
yes.
And it means your brain disconnects with its common sense factors, and you just keep following the sat-nav.
You've said it in as many words as well about just people having smartphones and using Google all the time to look things up, that you actually kids nowadays have lost the ability to retain knowledge.
Yes.
Because they're so used to just looking it up.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, one of the things that I did when I got my new car was I said to the guy who was sitting there showing me where everything was and all the buttons and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I said, can you please switch off the satellite voice?
Yeah.
The sat-nav voice, because one of the worst things in the world to me is a sat-nav voice that speaks to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it suddenly comes on and you can't switch it off.
No, that's right, you can't. No
matter how many times you try. I had one in, I rented that, a car, very nice car. I rented it when I was in Sicily.
Yes.
It suddenly started...
The one that you're paying the parking fines for now.
Well, you see, that hasn't happened yet.
Right.
I think it's a scam.
Yeah,
I may come back to, revisit that.
Yeah.
Because I got a ticket I got a letter from the rental car company saying I was going to get a ticket, and it hasn't arrived. And they're claiming they're going to charge me €45 for the admin fee for administrating a ticket that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Anyway, in the middle of nowhere, suddenly, because somebody hit the wrong button, the car started talking to me in Italian.
In Italian?
It started giving me sat-nav instructions in Italian.
Right, not good.
And we couldn't switch it off. It was driving me insane.
I bet it was.
I hated it.
The two parts of your brain which get taken over by what's called switch off are the hippocampus, which relates to memory, and the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in planning. So you lose your memory and planning facilities, okay?
Right.
And it's because you are being brainwashed by your sat-nav. If you're having a hard time navigating the massive streets in a city, you are almost certainly putting high demands on your hippocampus and your prefrontal cortex.
Yes.
But when we have technology telling us which way to go, these parts of the brain simply do not respond to the street network. In that sense, our brain has switched off its interest in the streets around us, and you are simply being led and totally dependent on the voice coming out of your sat-nav.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
That is not surprising, and I'm a great believer in being independent of all of those things.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, I mean, my sat-nav also says, whenever you put it on, do not use this while travelling.
Yeah.
Because it will distract you from driving.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of pointless, in which case, why have you got it?
Have you ever been in the back of a car that somebody's driving for you, like a chauffeur-driven car, and the guy's following sat-nav, and you say, no, don't go there, sorry, go straight on.
I have.
And the guy says, no, sir. I said, I don't care what your sat-nav tells you, man. Right. I'm telling you, I want to go home this way, you go there.
Yeah.
And they are completely flummoxed.
Yeah, they are.
Completely
flummoxed. Because they don't know where they're going. And
exactly.
if it wasn't for sat-nav, they would have no clue how to get from point A to point B.
Exactly.
But you see, they weren't trained in the ways of old. Where
no, exactly.
You could just have an A to Z of London in your company car and you'd find anybody.
Yeah.
Now, how about this from Roger? He says, my mother is amazed at how slick and cultured Porky Vision is. Take a bow, the new Melvin Bragg.
Thank you very much indeed.
I'm not sure he must be listening to the wrong show.
No. I think it's brilliant.
Ex-Pat says, Porky's got it all wrong, Ray SSGB. The Russians and the Germans are allies and the war in the East hasn't started yet.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
So you got that wrong.
Because Actually, I remember a scene when the inspector goes up to meet some military commanders, and Molotov turns up.
Molotov?
Yeah.
What, as in Molotov cocktail?
Well, he's the guy they named the cocktail
after. Is he holding a Molotov cocktail?
No, he's not holding a Molotov cocktail, but
Why
he's
not?
the guy who invented the petrol in the bottle and stick a rag in the top bomb.
Petrol in a bottle. It's like that's police song.
Petrol in a bottle. That's right, yeah.
How about this from Matt, who said Hesmondula. I knew she'd get a mention from Porky in Porky Vision.
Yeah.
Hashtag Hesmondula update.
Yes, that's right, yeah. Well, yeah, indeed she did, yeah. I mean, it's hard to really fix on her and think, oh, that used to be innocent little Hayley in Coronation Street,
Really?
you know.
Is that who it was?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Now, listen, there's an amazing story here, you know, which I came across yesterday, and you've
Okay.
probably seen it yourself. A woman is eating an egg when she feels something
Is
in
this
her
some
mouth.
kind of a riddle?
No, it's not a riddle at all. And, you know, as you do, you think, oh, crikey, is that a filling that's come out
Oh,
or
right.
something
Well,
like
it's
that?
like a boiled egg or something.
It was a boiled egg.
Uh-huh.
So she was eating a boiled egg.
Right.
And suddenly something in her mouth which bashed on her teeth. It's, oh,
This is
crikey.
not going to be unsavoury, is
It's
it?
not unsavoury at all. So anyway, she, you know, worked it out and put it on a plate. It's in fact a diamond.
A diamond?
It's a diamond. And the diamond has formed
Right.
in the fallopian tubes of the chicken.
What?
Yeah.
That's horrible.
It happens in 1 in 10 million chicken.
What? Chicken produces a diamond?
A diamond, yeah.
Rubbish.
No, no, honestly.
That can't be true.
No, it is absolutely true. It was absolutely true. What happens is
Well,
that...
this is probably very irresponsible reporting,
Yeah.
because what's going to happen now is unscrupulous people will go looking for the next diamond in the fallopian tube of a chicken.
No, not at all.
Of course they will.
No, it forms inside the egg, but it's from.
Yeah, but people are going to go looking for them now.
Well, I don't
Really?
care. The tiny gem, which came in a pack of Asda free-range eggs, is, you know, a remarkable chemical phenomenon. Okay,
But is it a real diamond?
it's not a real diamond, but it's a diamond to all intents and purposes.
So it's not a diamond.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's made of. Sometimes what happens is the shell coating,
Cubic zirconium.
the shell coating on an egg, which is delivered by a chicken, goes on last and doesn't harden until it hits the air. Now, sometimes the yolk goes back up the wrong way, meets a second yolk. That's a double yolker egg, okay?
Yeah, I've seen those.
2 yolks develop at
Never
the same
seen any
time.
diamonds, though.
And then sometimes the egg, after it's had the calcium coat added, travels backwards, meets another egg, and gets recoated, egg within an egg. It's rare, but it happens.
What, you mean like 2 shells?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Like
and
a
the
double
second
shell.
shell can turn into a diamond.
Yeah, but it's not a diamond, is it?
It is a diamond.
Well, it's not actually a diamond you could sell.
It is, yeah, it is.
Are you sure?
It's something in the egg tract, and it puts calcium around it.
Yeah, but it can't be a diamond.
It does. It comes out of the egg white. It doesn't hurt the bird at all, but it happens in about 1 in 10 million eggs.
Yeah, you've said all that, but it can't be a diamond.
It is a diamond.
Diamonds come out of the ground.
Let me see. Right. The woman who found this, and I could not believe it when I had sorted, you know, through what was going on.
Yeah.
I found this little bit of jewellery. I couldn't understand where it had come from. The only place it could have been from is the egg. I thought at first it had fallen out of my earlobe, you know, that I'd been wearing diamond earrings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And,
Or you thought, like you said,
right,
you thought
now
it was
here,
a filling or something.
no, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Experts have since told the lady concerned, a woman called Sally Thompson, that what you have found is the cubic zirconia.
So it's cubic zirconia.
A synthetic gem.
Yeah.
Often used in jewellery,
Yeah.
but formed on this occasion inside an egg.
Right. So it's not a diamond, it's a fake diamond.
No.
Well, cubic zirconia is a fake diamond.
How do you know that?
Because I know. Everybody knows that.
Yeah?
If you go to a diamond merchant and say, I'd like a diamond ring,
Yes.
they say, that'll be 25,000 quid. And then you go, if you've got anything cheaper,
Yeah.
and they go, have this one from this cubic zirconium,
Yeah.
and it's only about 200.
Well, even for a chicken to produce that is a remarkable thing, isn't it? I mean, it's a miracle. It's literally a miracle.
The story sounds bizarre to me.
No, it is bizarre.
It's riddled with errors.
It's not riddled with errors. It's from one of my scientific journals, so it's true.
Well, when was the last time it happened?
Well, I said it's 1 in 10 million eggs.
1 in 10
so
million.
go and find somebody who, the 10 millionth egg away from this one, and that's the last time it happened,
Well,
OK?
10 million eggs probably get produced around the world about once every day.
Probably.
So this is what I'm saying. You might encourage people...
Well, it could have happened in Ulaanbaatar, couldn't it? Last Tuesday.
Could have done. So that's what I mean. So people are now going to be looking for these eggs, these rogue, shells, and which might be detrimental to the health of the chicken.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you may have started something there. Anyway, we're out of time, luckily, so we haven't got any more time to explain that.
Go.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes.